Hello guys, welcome to Soul Fiction. So in this video, we will see the what if Naruto was the immortal demon king reincarnated as nobody. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. Inch shadows stir in Konoha. Late afternoon sun lit up the village of Konoha, turning the rooftops into shimmering patches of gold. A mellow breeze teased dust along the wide streets. Vendors packed up stalls, children chased each other near closing shops, and shinobi came and went on daily routines. It should have been just another ordinary day for Naruto Uzumaki, yet nothing felt ordinary anymore. He yawned and stretched, perched atop the railing of a small bridge near Training Ground 3. With his elbows resting on his knees, he stared at his own reflection in the slowly moving creek. He didn't look any different, same spiky blonde hair, same tanned face with whisker-like marks, but something inside him had changed. It was a kind of restlessness. A quiet, thrumming energy that refused to be ignored. "You all right there, Naruto?" came a casual voice from behind. He turned to see Sakura Haruno approaching. The afternoon light softened her pink hair, and she paused a few steps away, eyes carrying a mix of curiosity and concern. "Yeah," Naruto answered, hopping off the railing. "Just, thinking." "You, thinking," she teased, but it lacked her usual bite. "You look more serious than usual." He gave a grin, trying to play off the strange tension building up in his chest. "Ha, don't get used to it. I'm still the same old Naruto." But internally, he couldn't deny the new stir of power pulsing through his veins like an undercurrent that refused to be contained. They walked side by side toward the training field. Sakura's eyes flicked over him once or twice, catching subtle changes, the way he carried himself. How his shoulders seemed broader, how his gaze was sharper. But she couldn't place exactly what was different. Naruto noticed her confusion and forced himself to let out a goofy laugh, hoping to diffuse her scrutiny. Halfway across the clearing, Sasuke Uchiha stood with his arms crossed, typical smolder in his eyes. Kakashi Hatake was there too, leaning against a tree, nose buried in his ever-present orange book. "Finally decided to show up," Sasuke remarked, glancing between Naruto and Sakura. "I was starting to think you'd chickened out of training." "Chickened out?" Naruto snapped, but there was less raw indignation than usual. Usually, he'd be up in Sasuke's face, but right now he just stood there, calm but intense. "I'm always ready to kick your butt, Sasuke." Sasuke's brow rose in mild surprise, not at Naruto's words, but at the certainty behind them. It wasn't the typical loud bravado. There was an undercurrent of something else, like Naruto knew he could win if he really wanted to. Sasuke pushed off the tree trunk and sized him up. "All right," Kakashi said, slipping his book into his pouch. "We'll start with a basic spar. Sasuke, Naruto, go at it. Sakura, watch for any weaknesses in their defenses. Then we'll cycle." "You're not gonna join in, Kakashi-sensei?" Sakura asked, trying not to sound disappointed. Kakashi shrugged. "I will, but let's warm up first." Naruto squared off with Sasuke in the grassy clearing. The usual tension in the air thickened. Naruto glared, Sasuke smirked. But instead of diving right in, Naruto hesitated. The weird pressure inside him grew stronger, like coals fanned into a flame. "What's going on with me?" he wondered. Ever since last night's dream, a wild swirl of screaming armies and a red moon, he hadn't felt quite like himself. Or maybe he felt more like himself than ever, which was scarier. "Come on," Sasuke prodded. "Don't tell me you're scared." Naruto's heartbeat thumped once, hard. He needed to move or he'd explode. He shot forward with sudden speed. Sasuke barely had time to raise a guard before Naruto's fist came in fast. They exchanged quick blows, Sasuke's usual agility matched by Naruto's raw tenacity. But something else crept in. Naruto felt an uncanny clarity in each movement, as if he'd been through thousands of battles before. The timing of Sasuke's counters seemed almost predictable. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. "He's not usually this fast," he thought, stepping back to regain composure. Naruto pressed forward, weaving around a kick in a move that felt oddly natural, then readily with an elbow that brushed past Sasuke's jaw. "Damn," Sasuke muttered, forced to pivot away. He performed a quick fire-style jutsu, spitting a volley of small fireballs. Naruto leapt straight over them with an elegant twist in midair, then charged again. Surprised, Sasuke dropped to a low stance, but Naruto's momentum was unstoppable. Sasuke managed to block the brunt of the punch, but the impact still slammed him back several feet. Naruto froze. He blinked, fists still poised. That shouldn't have been so easy. A hush fell. Sakura's eyes widened in disbelief. Kakashi lowered his masked face, silver hair drifting in the breeze. Sasuke, on one knee, clenched his teeth. Pain flared in his forearms from the force of blocking that blow. What the hell? He muttered under his breath. Kashi cleared his throat and motioned for them to stop. All right, that's enough for now. Good job, both of you. Naruto let out a small breath. The rush of power receded, leaving him slightly shaken. He couldn't tell if he felt guilty for nearly bashing Sasuke's guard to pieces, or excited at the raw strength pulsing inside. Sasuke stood, ignoring the dull ache in his arms. He stared at Naruto with a mix of confusion and grudging respect. So you've been secretly training, he said at last, though it was more a question than a statement. Something like that, Naruto muttered, forcing a casual shrug. He wasn't about to say, no, I just have random surges of freakish strength. Kakashi's eye crinkled with curiosity, but he let the tension slide. Let's take a short break and then do some teamwork exercises. Without another word, Sasuke walked off to the far side of the clearing, brooding. Sakura followed after him, maybe to check if he was okay. Naruto scratched the back of his head, letting out a frustrated exhale. Kakashi approached, voice low. Naruto, everything all right? Yeah, sure, Naruto said, trying a half-hearted grin. Just feeling good today. That's all. Kakashi gave a small nod. All right, but you know, if something's bugging you, you can always talk to me. Naruto just nodded, uncertain how to respond. He could tell Kakashi suspected something. Everyone did, but how could he explain that he'd had nightmares about standing on a mountain of skulls, wearing a crimson crown, with soldiers worshipping him as their demon king? That he'd awakened with sweat streaming down his face, feeling more alive than ever before. He couldn't explain it even to himself. Nightfall Konoha streets. Training ended with little fanfare. Team 7 parted ways. Naruto ambled through the village. Hands stuffed into his pockets, gaze drifting over families locking up shops, closing shutters. Lanterns lit the narrow streets with a soft orange glow. The evening hush was strangely comforting. Yet his thoughts churned louder than ever. He nearly tripped over a small crate left in the middle of the road. Who the heck leaves this lying around? He muttered. Kicking it aside, he continued his aimless wandering. Normally, he'd grab a bowl of ramen, maybe holler at Iruka at the Ichiraku stand. Tonight, he wasn't sure he wanted to see anyone. A weird heaviness tugged at him. A quiet voice made him stop in his tracks. Naruto-kun. He turned to see Hinata Hyuga standing by a lantern post. Her pale lavender eyes peered at him with shy concern. Oh, Hinata. Hey, he greeted, feeling a flicker of warmth. She looked worried. She bowed her head slightly, fiddling with her fingers. I saw you walking alone. Are you all right? You look different. He forced a light laugh. Everyone's saying that today, huh? I'm fine, really. But as he eyed her gentle expression, something stirred inside his chest. Hinata had always been nice, too nice, maybe. She was the person who never made him feel like a nuisance. Right now, he kind of wished he could tell her everything swirling in his head. She swallowed, gathering a bit more courage. If you ever need someone to talk to, I don't mind listening. Her gaze flicked away, pink dusted her cheeks. She'd said a lot for her usual timid nature. Naruto felt a small surge of gratitude. Thanks, Hinata, he nodded. For a moment, the awkward tension of two teenagers threatened to fill the silence. Then he lifted a hand, giving her a gentle pat on the shoulder. She stiffened in surprise, but a tiny smile curved her lips. He left her there with a wave. That was enough contact for one night. The sensation in his veins, part warmth from Hinata's kind presence, part ominous flicker, continued to grow. Midnight Naruto's apartment. Naruto's small, cluttered apartment offered little comfort. He had flopped onto his bed in his orange pants and black t-shirt, not bothering to tidy up the scattered instant ramen cups. The only light came from the moon outside, casting a pale glow on the messy sheets. One hand draped over his forehead, he closed his eyes, hoping for dreamless sleep. But the moment darkness took him, shapes and voices lurked behind his eyelids. Blood-red skies, countless shadows kneeling before him. Laughter, a harsh, cruel laugh that he realized with a jolt was his own. Then a flash. In his mind's eye, he saw a towering black throne wreathed in flame, and in that seat, a figure wearing an obsidian crown etched with ancient symbols. The figure's eyes glowed molten gold, and his face, it was Naruto's face, older, more sinister. Exuding regal terror, Naruto jolted upright, breath ragged, heart hammering. Sweat slicked his hairline. The digital clock on his bedside table read 2 a.m. He stared out the window. Outside, the village slept peacefully. The nightmare's intensity lingered in every shaky breath. That's me, he thought in disbelief. But how? He had never experienced a vision so vivid. Even the smell of soot and iron clung to his senses. He could still hear that throaty, merciless laugh. A strange voice echoed in his mind. Rise, O King of the Abyss. Your subjects await your return. He pressed his hands against his ears. Shut up, he hissed, though no one was there. The voice died away like a faint echo. Naruto sat there in silence for a long time, refusing to close his eyes. Afraid of what might come next. Eventually, exhaustion won. He drifted back into an uneasy sleep, that voice resonating faintly in the back of his mind. Dawn Training Ground 3. Birds CA. Out as the sun peeked over the horizon. Normally, Naruto wouldn't be up this early, yet here he was, standing in the dew-laden grass, hands clenched at his sides. He hadn't been able to stay in bed a moment longer. He needed to do something, anything to fight the turmoil swirling in his head. He thought maybe he could burn off the strange energy in some morning exercises. He performed push-ups, squats, simple jutsu practice. But no matter how much he exerted himself, that restlessness remained. It was like an ocean swirling inside him that no amount of training could drain. He let out a frustrated shout and slammed his fist against a training post. The wood splintered like it was made of cardboard. Bits of timber flew everywhere, leaving him staring at the shattered remains. His breath stuck in his throat. What the? He muttered, stepping back. He'd hit that post 1,000 times before, but it had never just exploded. A slow clapping sound made him whirl around. Anko Mitarashi sauntered out from behind a nearby tree, a mischievous grin on her face. Well, aren't you the energetic one this morning? Naruto flushed. He wasn't sure how to explain. Anko-sensei, hey, I didn't mean to. She walked over, hands on hips, eyes flicking between him and the destroyed post. You on some new training regimen? That's some punch. She bent down to inspect the shards. Hen looked up at him with a curious tilt of her head. You feeling okay, kid? Totally fine, he insisted, rubbing the back of his neck. Maybe the wood was old. She shrugged, unconvinced. Well, be careful. The village carpenters don't appreciate us blowing up these posts for no reason. Then she gave a casual wave. Take it easy, Naruto. He watched her leave, shoulders tense. Even though Anko's abrupt appearance had startled him, he was grateful it wasn't anyone else he knew too well. Another uncomfortable question about his weird strength was the last thing he needed. Later that morning, Hokage's office. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura found themselves standing before the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, for a routine debrief. Kakashi stood off to the side, arms folded. The old man scanned a few scrolls on his desk, pipe in hand. I've been reviewing your team's progress, Sarutobi began. Your teamwork has improved significantly. However, I hear there's been a bit of an incident. His kind, wrinkled eyes shifted toward Naruto. Naruto stiffened. Incident. Kakashi cleared his throat. During training, let's just say Naruto showed some unexpected growth in his physical capabilities. Sasuke let out a small HMPH. Sakura eyed Naruto from the corner of her eye. Neither said a word, but the tension spoke volumes. Sarutobi placed his pipe on the desk. Naruto, anything you want to report? Feeling any unusual surges of chakra or changes in your health? Naruto's mind flashed to the nightmares, the splintered training post, the thrumming in his veins. No, Lord Hokage, I'm okay, he lied. Probably just me training extra hard. The Hokage studied him a moment longer, then nodded. All right, let us know if anything changes. Dismissed. He put his pipe back in his mouth, concluding the conversation. As the trio turned to leave, Kakashi's voice stopped them. Hold on, you three. The Hokage has a C-rank mission for us. We'll be guarding a traveling merchant between Fire Country towns. Naruto almost groaned. He felt so restless he'd have preferred a big fight to blow off steam. A mundane escort mission wasn't exactly thrilling. But maybe leaving the village would be. Good, maybe that weird tension would ease in a new environment. We leave tomorrow at dawn, Kakashi continued. I'll fill you in on the details later. For now, rest up. Naruto and the others nodded, stepping out into the hallway. As they walked, Sasuke looked over. Naruto. What? Naruto responded, a bit more sharply than he intended. That punch yesterday, what was that? Naruto grunted. I told you, I've been training. Don't worry about it, Sasuke. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, but he let it drop. Sakura glanced between them, worry gnawing at her. She didn't like the undercurrent of tension. Usually, Naruto's outbursts were loud, open. This new vibe was different, like a coiled snake waiting to strike. Afternoon Ichiraku ramen stand. Despite his internal turmoil, Naruto found himself drawn to his favorite comfort food, ramen. Slurping down a bowl of steaming noodles often cleared his head. Chuki, the stand owner, grinned as Naruto plopped onto a stool. Hey there, Naruto. The usual. You got it, Naruto said. Trying a smile, he tapped his fingertips on the counter, feeling the swirling energy beneath his skin. He needed to keep himself calm. Make it a large, please. Sitting next to him, to his surprise, was Ino Yamanaka. She twirled a chopstick between her fingers, leaning on the counter. Naruto. Long time no see. He blinked. Hey, Ino. Didn't know you came here often. She shrugged. I don't, but I heard you hang out here, so I thought I'd check it out. How's life? He gave a half smile. Fine, I guess. Why are you so curious? You're, like, the talk of the town right now, she said, twirling a strand of platinum blonde hair. Word is, you suddenly got crazy strong. And, she leaned closer with a playful glint in her eye, even Sakura's a little freaked out by how cool you've become. Naruto felt a flush at the back of his neck. Cool, since when? Ino giggled. Don't act clueless. You've got a vibe lately. Confident, edgy, kinda hot, actually. She tapped him lightly on the shoulder. Her tone was teasing, but there was an undercurrent of genuine interest. I'm not the only one noticing. I'm just the same. Naruto sipped water, feeling uncertain about how to handle Ino's casual flirtation. Honestly, it made him feel something warm inside. Part of him liked the attention. Another part was uneasy because it was so new. Chuki slid 2 steaming bowls in front of them. They murmured thanks and began eating. Naruto tried to focus on the savory broth. But his senses felt hyper-aware of everything around him: Ino's perfume, the quiet chattering of passers-by, the faint energy signature of a shinobi perched on a nearby rooftop. You want to grab a walk or something after this? Ino asked. Naruto nearly choked on a noodle. What? Relax, she smirked. Just a walk. I'm bored. And you seem interesting today. He swallowed, thinking of the swirl inside him. Sure, okay. They finished their ramen quickly, Ino paying for her bowl, while Naruto dropped some coins on the counter for his. Then they stepped out into the bustling midday street. The sun hung high, bright and warm, and the smell of grilled food mingled with the chatter of merchants calling out deals. So, Ino started, clasping her hands behind her back as they strolled. What's changed, really? Don't tell me you just woke up one day this strong. Naruto stuffed his hands in his pockets. The demon voice in his head snorted at the idea of revealing the truth. I've been having weird dreams, he heard himself say. Part of him was surprised he even admitted that much. Ino's eyes flickered with curiosity. Like nightmares, sort of, but they feel more like memories. Except they can't be mine. He paused, looking up at a bright banner advertising fresh produce. They're terrifying. But also, I feel powerful in them. She stopped walking, turning to face him. And now, you're stronger in real life. Her expression straddled the line between excitement and worry. That's kind of freaky. But also, cool. Let me guess. You like that power. Naruto tensed. Did he like it? Yes. But also, it scared him. Yeah, he admitted softly, glancing away. I do. But it's complicated. They walked in companionable silence for a while, the crowds around them ebbing and flowing. Ino broke the quiet with a gentle nudge. Hey, if you need someone to confide in, I'm a good listener. Usually I'm all gossip, but I can keep secrets when it matters. Naruto peered at her. Her eyes were playful yet sincere. He appreciated it, this side of Ino that wasn't just gossip or competition with Sakura. Before he could reply, though, a clang and a shout rang out behind them. They both spun around. Down the street, a tall stranger in a cloak had barreled into a produce stall, knocking crates of vegetables everywhere. The merchant cursed and shouted. The cloaked figure muttered an apology, but his hood tilted up, revealing a sharp grin. Naruto's instincts flared. Something about the man's chakra felt wrong. A faint echo of that demon voice whispered in Naruto's mind. Ino frowned. Who's that? Naruto stepped forward. Let's find out. They approached carefully. The cloaked figure turned, noticing them. His eyes were oddly pale, with a faint swirl of red in the pupils. Before Naruto could speak, the man's lips curled into a smirk. Oh, it's you. Naruto's heart lurched. Huh, you have something I want, the stranger said cryptically. Then he lunged. Fast. Too fast. Naruto barely had time to shove Ino aside before the man's hand, crackling with a sickly green chakra, slashed through the air. The energy sizzled past Naruto's face, close enough to sear the tips of his hair. Get back, Naruto yelled. Ino scrambled away, eyes wide. Bystanders screamed, scattering in all directions. Naruto braced himself. This was no ordinary thug. The man's chakra felt twisted, unnatural, like a swirling pit of malice. For a split second, Naruto's vision blurred, and he saw a shadowy reflection behind the man. Something monstrous with horns, glaring at him. What is this? He ducked the next blow, then retaliated with a sharp kick. His foot connected with the man's side, sending him skidding across the street. But the figure rose instantly, smirking, as though the hit hadn't fazed him. So, the rumors are true. The Demon King's power flows in you. Naruto's blood ran cold. Demon King. He didn't know why, but the words resonated inside him. Ino, from the sidelines, threw a kunai. Naruto, heads up. He caught the kunai midair, flipping it in his grip. The stranger darted forward again, this time forming a series of hand signs Naruto didn't recognize. Sickly green flames roared around the man's arms. Naruto gasped, quickly weaving his own signs for a basic wind-style deflection. Their attacks clashed, sending swirling gusts and green embers across the street. Buildings trembled. People screamed and rushed for cover. Naruto's stomach clenched. This was a quiet part of the village. An all-out fight here could cause massive damage. He needed to stop this quickly. Ino, get any civilians out of here. Naruto shouted, eyes never leaving the assailant. She nodded, rallying some people to safety. Naruto glared at the cloaked man, who stared back with an unsettling grin. The man's voice came out like a hiss. The Demon King is said to have reincarnated. If that's truly you, then prove it. Naruto's throat went dry. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you threaten my village, I'll take you down. He launched forward, the edges of his vision tinged with red for a second, that strange power surging. Something in him bristled at the title Demon King, not out of fear, but out of a dark sense of familiarity. He met the man blow for blow, each strike heavier than the last. The green flame on the stranger's hands scorched the air, and Naruto's fists crackled with a faint aura of chakra. Buildings rattled with each collision. Despite the chaos, Naruto felt a peculiar clarity, like his body was moving on instincts older than any jutsu training. The man laughed, even as Naruto hammered him with a punishing combo. Yes, that's it, let it out. He taunted, black blood trickling from his mouth. Show me the might of the ancient king. Lightning shot through Naruto's brain. A memory that wasn't his own. An army of creatures, kneeling, chanting. All hail the Demon King. He staggered, momentarily disoriented. The stranger seized the opening. With a burst of that eerie flame, he lashed out, striking Naruto's chest and sending him crashing into a nearby cart. Wood shattered around him, splinters lodging in his jacket. Pain flared, but then it receded almost instantly as that dark energy within him swelled. "Heal," a voice seemed to whisper. And unbelievably, the wounds on his arms and chest knitted themselves, flesh reconnecting in seconds. Naruto's eyes went wide. What was that? The man observed, elated. "Remarkable healing. You really are the one." He stepped closer, ignoring the green flame that still danced around his arms. Naruto rose from the wreckage, feeling rage mixed with fear and confusion. In a single blink, he was in front of the stranger. Seizing him by the collar of his cloak. "I don't know who you are, or what you want, but..." The man's grin widened. "I seek the return of our rightful ruler. Join us, O king, and reclaim your throne." Naruto's head pulsed in agony, more images swirling. A black fortress in a burning land, monstrous soldiers cheering, corpses littering a battlefield. His heart pounded, dead so loudly it drowned out every thought. He roared, more animalistic than human, and hurled the man aside. The stranger crashed into a stone wall, crumpling. Dust rose in the aftermath. Panting, Naruto struggled to regain composure. The entire street had been torn up, debris scattered everywhere. Ino rushed over, her chest heaving. "Naruto, are you holy crap, you're not hurt?" He glanced at his arms. No sign of the cuts or bruises. "I'm fine," he said, adrenaline coursing through every vein. The man lay unconscious or possibly worse amid the rubble. Naruto swallowed, trembling with the aftershock of the fight. Within moments, several Anbu and village shinobi arrived on the scene. They surrounded the collapsed stranger. One masked Anbu member knelt and checked his vitals, then turned to Naruto with a curt nod. "We'll take him in for questioning." Naruto gave a stiff nod, mind still racing. How was he supposed to explain this? The strange man raving about demon kings, his own monstrous surge of strength, the healing. He felt eyes on him, uncertain and wary. As the masked Anbu agents gathered the unconscious attacker, Ino stepped closer, gently touching Naruto's shoulder. She looked at him differently than before, part shocked, part fascinated. "Naruto, your wounds, they healed," he murmured, still trying to believe it. "I don't know how." In the distance, he caught sight of Kakashi on a rooftop. One eye narrowed in concern. No doubt word would spread quickly. He turned away from the scene, stumbling a bit. Ino stayed by his side. "What am I becoming?" he wondered, pushing down a flare of panic. That voice inside him churned again, whispering secrets of an ancient power. Naruto gritted his teeth, refusing to listen. Evening the Hokage monument. As dusk settled, painting the sky in amber and rose hues. Naruto found himself drawn to the familiar vantage point atop the Hokage monument. He often came here to sort out his thoughts when life got too heavy. Tonight, the weight on his mind was immense. He stared down at Konoha. The lights from the shops and houses twinkled in the early evening darkness. A gentle wind ruffled his hair. It should have been peaceful, but all he felt was turmoil. "Demon King," he repeated silently. "As that, me?" It sounded impossible, absurd, yet the evidence was hard to ignore. The nightmares, the glimpses of ancient battlefields, the miraculous healing. And the raw, terrifying power that sometimes swelled within him. He closed his eyes, hoping for a moment of clarity. Instead, a rasping voice echoed in his mind. "Embrace your heritage. This world shall be yours once again. I won't be your puppet." Naruto snarled under his breath, fists clenched. The voice faded, replaced by the rustle of wind. He remembered the look. In that stranger's eyes, fanatic devotion, like Naruto was a deity. Or a devil. He hated it. It made him feel like some monster looming over the people he cared about. Fear clawed at him. What if this power destroys the village instead of protecting it? Still out here, huh? Naruto jumped slightly. He turned to see Kakashi approaching, hands in his pockets. The older shinobi's voice was quiet but laced with concern. "Heard you had quite the day." Naruto managed a shaky grin. "Guess you could say that." Kakashi moved to stand next to him, both gazing over the village. After a moment, Kakashi spoke softly. "Want to talk about it?" 1,000 thoughts tangled in Naruto's head, too big to unravel. Finally, he sighed. I don't know what's happening. My body's changing. I'm stronger. I heal fast. And weird people keep calling me some demon king. It's nuts. Kakashi nodded slowly. It is strange. But it doesn't automatically make you a monster. The question is, what do you want to do with this power? Naruto stared at the twinkling lights below, heart pounding. I want to protect my home, my friends. But, what if I can't control it? Kakashi's gaze flicked to him. You don't have to handle it alone. Warmth coursed through Naruto. He'd expected suspicion or caution, but Kakashi's trust shone through his single visible eye. Thanks, Naruto whispered. It helped, even if it didn't solve the bigger problem. After a comfortable silence, Kakashi sighed. The man who attacked you, he's still unconscious. The Anbu are investigating. If anything comes up, I'll let you know. Naruto nodded. He said something about the return of our rightful ruler. It's creepy. Kakashi's jaw tightened slightly. Just be careful. Sometimes these cults or rogue factions get caught up in ancient legends. They can be dangerous. Got it. Naruto turned back to the horizon. A flicker of determination sparked in his eyes. Whatever was happening, he wouldn't let it define him. He'd fight it, shape it, use it to protect Konoha. Kakashi placed a hand on his shoulder, silent support, then stepped away. Try to get some rest before our mission tomorrow. I have a feeling it'll be eventful. Naruto exhaled a short laugh. Yeah, sure. He waited until Kakashi vanished in a swirl of leaves before letting the humor die away, replaced by the persistent weight in his chest. Late night Naruto's apartment. The night air was still. After a quick shower, Naruto sprawled on his bed, arms thrown over his head. He was exhausted, physically and mentally. Yet sleep wouldn't come easily. He replayed the battle with the cloaked attacker. The sensation of unstoppable power felt, dare he admit it, good. But the memory of that sinister laughter in his dreams knotted his stomach. If he gave in, would he lose himself? Rolling onto his side, he spotted the frog-shaped coin purse, Gama-chan, sitting on a shelf. The sight brought a wave of nostalgia and reminded him of simpler times. He let out a breath. Tomorrow, he'd have to put on a smile for the escort mission. He wasn't sure how well he could fake normalcy. Finally, he closed his eyes, letting darkness wash over him. He drifted into a haze, uncertain how long he lay there. Then the dream started again. Swirling shadows, an endless army bowing. He heard roars, saw flickers of monstrous creatures with horns, teeth, and spiked armor. At the center of the swirling mayhem, a giant throne rose from the ashes. Seated upon it was a figure draped in regal black, eyes shining crimson. The figure lifted a hand, and countless souls screamed in agony or worship. Naruto couldn't tell which. The figure turned slowly to face him. And it was his face, twisted and older, crowned by a circlet of black and gold. Naruto awoke with a gasp, drenched in sweat. The clock read 3 a.m. He clenched his blankets, heart racing. I won't become that thing, he told himself, but the vow felt hollow in the oppressive darkness. Early morning village gates. Dawn was just breaking when Naruto approached the gates for the mission. Despite the shaky night, he managed a faint smile when he saw Sakura and Sasuke waiting. Kakashi was chatting lazily with a short, Taka merchant who clung to a large pack. Sakura rubbed her eyes. You're here early for once, Naruto. He forced an easy grin. I can surprise you sometimes. Her expression softened briefly, concern flickering in her eyes before she masked it. Well, let's just get this mission over with. Sasuke snorted, adjusting his pack. Escorting some merchant isn't exactly the mission I need to test my limits. Naruto couldn't help but smirk. You're not the only one who wants to test limits, Sasuke. His words hung in the air, quiet but full of implication. Sasuke shot him a sharp look but said nothing, tension bristling between them. Kakashi clapped his hands. All right, team, let's move out. They set off, with the merchant in tow, heading along a winding road that led from the safety of Konoha into the surrounding forests. The sky was a pale blue streaked with hints of pink from the sunrise, the air fresh with dew. Birds fluttered in the trees overhead, and everything felt deceptively peaceful. Naruto glanced around, alert. His senses felt heightened, as if the demonic presence inside was constantly scanning for threats. He caught the subtle shift of a squirrel on a branch 100 feet away. He could hear the faint rustle of Sasuke's cloth wrappings as he walked, the quiet breathing of Sakura. It was almost too much detail. Several hours later, forest path. The group paused in a small clearing near a creek to rest. While the merchant dug around in his pack, searching for a snack, the three genin found logs or rocks to sit on. Kakashi lingered near a tree, eyeing the surroundings. "Here," Sakura said, offering Naruto a canteen. He took it, grateful for the cool water. "Thanks." He drank, trying to push away the swirl of new senses. Then, because he noticed her lingering stare, he asked quietly, "You okay?" She bit her lip. "That's my line. You've been acting weird, and yesterday." "Yeah, about that." He paused, uncertain how much to reveal. "There was this guy in the village. Said some crazy stuff. I had to fight him. I'm fine now." Sakura frowned. "We heard some rumors, but no one would give us details." "Was it bad?" Naruto forced a shrug. He wasn't exactly a pushover. "But I'm okay." She nodded, unconvinced. "You sure?" He stared at the ground. The memory of that healing rush flickered through his mind. He avoided direct eye contact. "Yeah, I promise I won't let anything happen to me or to you guys." A small smile curved her lips. "All right." She let the matter drop, though her eyes betrayed lingering worry. Across the clearing, Sasuke leaned against a tree, arms folded. He watched Naruto and Sakura briefly, then turned his gaze outward. Kakashi joined him, apparently noticing the tension. "Sasuke, on edge." Sasuke shrugged. "This road can have bandits. Just being cautious." Kakashi made a thoughtful noise, gaze flicking to Naruto across the creek. "That's good. Stay alert." As the merchant rummaged noisily in his pack, the wind rustled overhead, carrying the scent of pine. Naruto stretched, still feeling that undercurrent of restless energy. He gazed at his reflection in the rippling creek. The memory of the broken training post flashed in his mind. "I have to keep it together." Midday attack on the road. They continued their journey until midday, the sun beating down through a canopy of leaves. A hush settled over the forest trail, broken only by footsteps on packed earth. Naruto's senses prickled. "Anyone else feel that?" he muttered. Kakashi turned slightly. Sasuke tensed. "Someone's watching," Kakashi confirmed. He signaled them to stay close to the merchant. In that instant, 4 shinobi dropped from the trees, brandishing kunai and swords. Their Hittite bore no recognized village symbol rogues, perhaps. Kakashi stepped forward, eyeing them calmly. "If you're after the merchant's goods, I suggest you leave now." One of the rogues, a tall man with a tattoo across his cheek, sneered. "We don't want just the goods. We hear a rumor about a demon chakra user traveling this road." His eyes flicked to Naruto, who stiffened. "Brilliant," Naruto thought. "Word is spreading that fast." "Team 7, protect the client," Kakashi ordered, lifting his headband slightly to reveal his Sharingan. The 4 rogue ninjas pounced, launching shuriken. Sasuke deflected them with swift strikes, while Sakura guided the merchant out of direct range. Naruto's heart thudded. Another battle, another mention of demon chakra. Fear and excitement swirled in him. He launched forward, meeting one rogue head-on. The man swung a short sword, aiming at Naruto's chest. But Naruto's reflexes felt supercharged. He swayed sideways, grabbed the man's wrist, and delivered a punishing punch to the gut. The rogue doubled over, gasping. Another rogue came at him from behind. Naruto spun, blocking with his forearm. The man's blade skittered against Naruto's defense, but it left no blood. Naruto's skin glowed with an odd flicker of chakra. A savage grin threatened to surface on Naruto's face. Something primal wanting to lash out. He shoved the attacker back, each blow fueled by a near-feral intensity. Across the clearing, Sasuke engaged 2 at once, activating his Sharingan. Sparks flew as kunai and swords clashed. Kakashi subdued the tallest rogue with a lightning-quick jutsu. Sakura circled protectively near the merchant, flinging precise kunai throws to deter any stray attacker. Naruto's target coughed, eyes wide. "What are you? Just a shinobi from Konoha," Naruto growled. It felt like a half-truth. He delivered a final strike that knocked the rogue unconscious. The man crumpled, leaving Naruto's hands trembling with lingering adrenaline. That was too easy. The demon voice whispered in the back of his mind. "They are weak." You are so much more. He grit his teeth, ignoring it. Sasuke finished off his foes with a flurry of fire jutsu and precise taijutsu. Kakashi tied up the tallest rogue, calling to the others, secure them. We'll have to report this. Sakura exhaled, guiding the merchant forward. Are we safe now? Kakashi surveyed the area. Seems that way. Let's keep moving. We'll hand them over to the nearest outpost. He turned to Naruto, his voice quiet. Good job. You okay? Naruto forced a smile. I'm fine, he repeated, though that swirling power inside refused to settle. Each fight seemed to awaken it further. Afternoon temporary campsite. By late afternoon, they made camp in a small clearing off the main road. They'd traveled faster than expected, wanting distance from the ambush site. Kakashi pitched a small tent for the merchant, while Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura gathered around a fire pit to warm their ration packs. The forest around them was thick with tall pines and mossy ground. A few birds chirped overhead, but the general mood was subdued. The tension from earlier lingered like an unspoken question. Why were these rogues specifically targeting Naruto? And what did it mean that Mor and enemies seemed to sense his demon chakra? As they settled around the fire, the merchant sighed heavily. I had no idea this journey would be so dangerous. I'm just trying to make a living. Kakashi gave him a reassuring nod. We'll keep you safe. Naruto poked at the fire with a stick, lost in thought. Sasuke looked at him sidelong. You were different today, Naruto. Yeah, Sakura added softly. You fought like you already knew what the enemy would do next. Naruto threw the stick into the flames. Maybe I'm just getting better at reading moves, he said, somewhat evasively. Kakashi stepped in. We're all improving, but let's rest. We'll set up watch rotations. They agreed on the schedule. Kakashi first, Sasuke second, Naruto third, and Sakura last. The merchant, exhausted, turned in early. Sakura found a comfortable spot under a large pine. Sasuke perched on a log, arms folded, quiet as usual. Naruto leaned back, gazing at the deepening sky. He couldn't shake the feeling. That someone or something was calling to him, urging him to unleash more power. Closing his eyes briefly, he inhaled the scent of pine needles and damp soil, trying to ground himself. Midnight Naruto's watch. Nightfall enveloped the campsite. Crickets chirped in the underbrush, and the soft glow of the fire cast dancing shadows across the sleeping forms of Sasuke, Sakura, and the merchant. Kakas. Hai dozed lightly near the edge of the campsite, but Naruto knew the Jonin was alert enough to wake at a moment's notice. Naruto walked a short perimeter, arms wrapped around himself. The moon was high and bright, illuminating patches of the clearing with silvery light. Despite the calm, a knot of anxiety refused to loosen in his chest. Something's out there, he sensed. His newly sharpened awareness prickled. He scanned the surrounding darkness. Nothing obvious. Still, that intangible heaviness pressed down on him. A branch snapped. Naruto crouched, heart hammering. Was that a deer, or something else? He stepped quietly away from the firelight, venturing a few yards into the shadows of the forest. The tall pines swayed overhead. Another faint rustle made his nerves flare. Suddenly, a presence flickered behind him. He spun. Who's there? No answer. The forest was still. Then, with a slow ripple, a figure appeared, stepping from behind a wide trunk. They wore a long cloak and an eerie porcelain mask. Naruto couldn't see their face, but he felt that same twisted chakra from earlier. Again, he growled, readying a kunai. What do you want? The figure tilted their head, voice muffled behind the mask. I sense the demon within you, the king's presence. You must come with us. Naruto's hands tensed around the kunai. This was the second time in as many days that someone referred to him that way. His anger surged. I'm no demon king. Leave me alone. A soft chuckle. You cannot deny destiny. Your aura reeks of ancient blood. The world shall bend to your might once you awaken fully. Naruto's heartbeat roared in his ears. Stay away from my friends, from my village. Or what? The masked figure's chakra spiked ominously. You'll kill me with that fraction of your power. Naruto lunged. He wasn't about to let them threaten Konoha or the people he cared about. The figure vanished, reappearing behind him in a swirl of leaves. Naruto spun, throwing the kunai with pinpoint accuracy. But the enemy dodged effortlessly, as if expecting each move. They danced through the trees, exchanging quick strikes. The masked figure conjured a short blade shimmering with that same malicious green energy. Naruto's fists glowed faintly with his own swirling chakra, pulses of demonic heat he couldn't fully control. Blades clashed, sparks flying. Naruto's breath hitched when the figure slashed across his torso. But the pain subsided almost instantly once again. His skin knitted itself, leaving only a faint singe mark on his clothing. The figure laughed behind the mask. Impressive regeneration, King, but you still resist your birthright. Naruto gritted his teeth, fury building. Stop calling me that. He retaliated with a powerful roundhouse that sent the figure smashing through a bush. Branches snapped. For a moment, the intruder lay still, cloak ripped. Naruto advanced, chest heaving. Who are you people? What do you want with me? The figure slowly rose. We are but heralds. The demon clan of old has awaited your return for centuries. Your reincarnation signals the new age of darkness. Embrace it, or watch everyone you love wither. A wave of terror and anger crashed in Naruto's mind. Flashes of that throne, of masses bowing, of destruction. He roared, channels of chakra surging in him like a dam breaking. His eyes momentarily glowed red, the air around him trembling. In that instant, the figure hissed in excitement. Yes, unleash. Before they could finish, a blur of silver hair cut into the clearing. Kakashi, awakened by the commotion, slammed a lightning blade straight into the figure's side. The masked intruder coughed, green chakra sputtering. You're too late, they rasped, then vanished in a swirl of black smoke. Kakashi stood panting, electricity fading from his palm. Naruto sank to his knees, trembling in the aftershock of his own unleashed power. What the hell is happening? He asked, voice hoarse. They keep coming, calling me their king. Kakashi crouched beside him, scanning for any sign of further threats. It's all right, they're gone. He placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto, calm down. Deep breaths. Naruto tried, inhaling shakily. The anger and fear ebbed, though not without leaving a hollowness in his chest. This has to stop, he whispered. Kakashi nodded grimly. We'll get to the bottom of it. For now, let's regroup. Back at camp, Sasuke and Sakura were already awake, alarmed by the noise. The merchant peeked out from his tent, trembling. Naruto and Kakashi filled them in, giving the bare essentials. An intruder had attacked, then fled. Sasuke eyed Naruto with suspicion. They were after you again. That's the second time, right? Naruto's jaw tightened. I guess so. Sakura placed a hand on Naruto's arm, looking torn between sympathy and confusion. We should tell the Hokage as soon as we get back. Kakashi agreed, then guided everyone to settle. We'll stay on high alert for the rest of the night. They tried to sleep once more, but Naruto doubted any of them truly rested. He stared at the stars overhead, the masked intruder's words looping in his head. Your reincarnation signals the new age of darkness. He clenched his fists. Not if I can help it. Pre-dawn the mission continues. At the first hint of sunrise, the team broke camp, eager to finish the mission and return to Konoha to report. The forest trail felt unsettlingly silent, like even the birds were afraid to sing. Naruto walked near the front, scanning the shadows. He wanted to ensure no more surprises. Sasuke's stoic presence matched Naruto's tension, while Sakura occasionally glanced at them with worried eyes. Kakashi led, the merchant trailing behind, quiet as a mouse. It was a relief when they reached the small town that was the merchant's destination. Though it was no more than a cluster of huts and a few winding dirt roads, seeing people bustling about, unconcerned by demon talk, felt grounding. The merchant bowed repeatedly, thanking them. I'll handle business here. I truly appreciate your help. He cast a wary glance at Naruto. And I hope you stay safe. Naruto offered a nod. He wasn't quite sure how to respond. But the merchant's gratitude still made him feel like a real shinobi, demon powers or not. Kakashi turned to his team. Mission complete. Let's head back. We need to debrief the Hokage immediately. They set off without delay, retracing their path at a brisk pace. Unease hovered, unspoken. Once or twice, Naruto caught Sasuke staring at him as if trying to decipher a puzzle. He ignored it, focusing on the road ahead. Noon returned to Konoha. They arrived at the village gates, where the Chunin guards recognized Kakashi and waved them through. Naruto exhaled in relief at the sight of the familiar walls, even though he knew trouble awaited in the form of questions about the repeated attacks. Before any of them could head home, a messenger greeted Kakashi. Lord Hokage requests your immediate presence for an urgent briefing. Kakashi thanked him, then turned to the team. Straight to the Hokage's office. Let's go. Naruto braced himself. Here we go. Hokage's office. The third Hokage sat behind his desk, posture rigid. The lines on his face seemed deeper than usual. Enko Mitarashi and a couple of other Jonin stood around the room, discussing a spread of documents. Sarutobi motioned Team 7 closer. I assume your mission was completed successfully. But we have more pressing issues. Naruto, I've heard rumors of another attack, and that the rogue specifically targeted you. Naruto nodded. Yes, sir. I don't know why, but they keep calling me something Demon King. Murmurs rippled through the gathered Jonin. Enko glanced at Kakashi, as if seeking confirmation. Kakashi sighed. It's true. Naruto was attacked in the village, then again during our mission. Both attackers mentioned a Demon King and seemed certain Naruto possessed that power. Sarutobi leaned back, exhaling smoke from his pipe. This is troubling. I've reviewed records of certain cults and factions obsessed with demon lore, but none mention an entity like a Demon King, in direct relation to the nine-tailed fox. This might be something else entirely. Quote, Naruto's chest tightened. He felt the weight of everyone's gaze. I don't understand it either, he admitted. But they said I was reincarnated. That I have an ancient demon's blood or something. Quote, Sasuke looked at the Hokage. Could it be related to the fox sealed inside him? Sarutobi frowned. The Kyuubi's chakra is distinct. This phenomenon seems different. I sense an older, more sinister thread. A heavy silence fell. Then, Enko piped up, arms crossed. You think it could be some ancient demon clan predating the tailed beasts? We've never heard of them. It's possible, Sarutobi conceded. He turned to Naruto, eyes filled with a gentle sternness. We will investigate. In the meantime, Naruto, be on your guard. Report any odd experiences. Naruto nodded, a knot of anxiety rising in his throat. Understood. Sarutobi dismissed them with a parting warning to stay vigilant. As Team 7 turned to leave, Kakashi gave Naruto's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. In the corridor, Sakura let out a long breath. This is crazy. Sasuke stared at Naruto. So you have two monstrous powers inside you now. The fox, and this Demon King stuff. Naruto bristled. I didn't ask for this. Then he looked away, guilt gnawing at him. He knew how Sasuke felt about strength. But this wasn't the kind of strength one could covet. It felt like a curse. Sakura placed a hand between them, halting any argument. Let's just take a step back. We'll handle it together, all right. As a team. That made Naruto's chest ache with a mix of gratitude and worry. He gave a curt nod, unable to form words. Sasuke's eyes flickered. Then he, too, nodded slightly. Twilight Training Ground 7. Despite the tension, Naruto found himself drawn to Training Ground 7 that evening, wanting to blow off steam. The sky was awash with reds and purples. He removed his jacket, stretching. The bruises from the fight had long since faded. The healing factor that came with this ominous power was undeniable. At least it's good for something, he thought sarcastically. As he started practicing basic strikes against a training dummy, footsteps rustled in the grass. He turned to see Ino approach. She wore a sly smile. Heard you were back. Thought I might find you here. He raised an eyebrow. Spying on me. Just checking. She teased, drawing closer. Is it true you got attacked again? He paused, fists clenched. Yeah, seems to be my new normal. Ino bit her lip, sincerity showing through her usual bravado. You okay? Naruto let out a bitter laugh. Everyone keeps asking me that. I'm alive, if that counts. Quote. She stepped up, placing a hand on his arm. It does. You're tough. Honestly, it's kinda exciting. You're so different from before, but still you. I can't explain it. A small flush colored her cheeks. She leaned in, studying his expression. Naruto felt his pulse quicken. He glanced at her lips, then up to her eyes. Was it the demon power in him that made him feel bolder? Or was it just teenage hormones? Either way, he didn't fight it when he slipped an arm around her waist. Ino's eyes widened slightly, a flicker of surprise giving way to a little smile. They were alone, the sinking sun painting their surroundings a dusky orange. Naruto leaned in, brushing his lips against hers lightly at first, then more firmly. Her breath caught, but she leaned into him, responding in kind. The world seemed to tilt. For a few moments, there was no demon power, no nightmares, just the warmth of her body, the softness of her lips. She clung to him, nails digging lightly into his shoulders. When they finally broke apart, she exhaled shakily. "Wow," she murmured, cheeks flushed. "That's definitely new." Naruto's own face felt hot. Sorry if that was too." She pressed a finger to his lips. "No, it was good. Great, actually." A grin tugged at her mouth, mischief returning to her expression. "I'm definitely not complaining." He let out a breath, a mix of relief and nerves. His heart still pounded, and the tension that had coiled within him for days melted, at least for a moment. "Thanks, Ino, for, making me feel normal again." She stepped back slightly, arms still around him. "Hey, I'd call that above normal." Her tone playful, she kissed his cheek before pulling away. "But seriously, be careful. Whatever's happening to you, just don't lose yourself, okay?" Naruto nodded, eyes lingering on her. "I'll try not to." They stood in comfortable silence, the hush of the training field around them. Then Ino sighed, stepping away. "I should get going before my dad wonders where I am. But maybe I'll check on you again tomorrow." He swallowed, nodding. "Yeah, that'd be nice." She shot him a final wink before disappearing into the twilight. Naruto stared after her, heart still racing. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe he wasn't doomed to become some monstrous ruler after all. Maybe he could still be just Naruto. Nightfall Hokage Monument. It had become a habit for him to end his day atop the monument, gazing at Konoha's lights. Only this time, the swirling confusion in his chest held a tiny thread of optimism. With the memory of Ino's kiss still fresh, he felt more determined than ever to fight off whatever dark destiny lurked in his nightmares. He perched on the edge of the fourth Hokage's head, letting his legs dangle over the cliff. The wind ruffled his hair, carrying the faint scent of wood smoke from the village below. Then, faintly at first, the voice slithered into his thoughts. "You cannot run from me, child. I am your true self. This realm shall be ours again." Naruto scowled, pressing a hand to his temple. "You're just in my head. Leave me alone." Laughter echoed softly, fading like a dream. Naruto exhaled, feeling exhaustion settle into his bones. Yet, instead of succumbing to despair, he set his jaw. Let this demon come. Let these cultists try. He wouldn't bow to any ancient prophecy. He watched the moon rise over the rooftops, chest tight with conflicting emotions: fear, determination, a strange longing. The day had proven that enemies lurked everywhere. This Demon King nonsense wasn't going to vanish. But amid the chaos, he'd also found moments of warmth, camaraderie with Team 7, Kakashi's support, that stolen kiss with Ino. He refused to let that be overshadowed. Someday, he vowed silently, I'll figure out what's really going on inside me and I'll use it to protect everyone I care about. The wind carried his silent promise into the night sky. Far below, the village lights shimmered like a sea of stars, oblivious to the looming shadow of an ancient throne. For now, Naruto would cling to that shimmering hope no matter how dark the nightmares became. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Inches Crimson Whispers. Morning sunlight slipped through the narrow window in Naruto's apartment, illuminating the drifting specks of dust in the quiet. He stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint buzz of the village coming awake outside. Usually, he would have been out the door by now, bounding off to train or to pester someone for an early breakfast. But, ever since the strange attacks, ever since that mysterious voice had begun calling him Demon King, mornings had a different weight to them. He could still feel the echo of demonic power coursing through his veins. A relentless pulse that lingered even after sleep. It didn't vanish overnight. If anything, it seemed stronger each morning. He rubbed a hand over his face, trying to shake away the dregs of a fresh nightmare. More armies. More faceless soldiers chanting his name like an unholy anthem. Scrubbing a hand through his messy blonde hair, he rolled off his bed and stepped to the mirror. His reflection stared back, normal enough, yet he couldn't help but search for something amiss. Eyes the same bright blue, whisker marks on his cheeks, expression typically determined. No horns, no demonic aura glimmering on the surface. But inside, he could practically hear that deep, ancient voice whispering at the edges of his mind. He exhaled sharply, turning away from the mirror. Not today, he muttered. He wouldn't let those nightmares dictate how he lived. He had training, missions, and friends to worry about no matter what twisted destiny someone claimed he had. Outside, the village shone under the morning sun. Shopkeepers rolled open their shutters, kids ran along the paths, and a pair of chunin patrolled by, nodding a greeting to Naruto. He forced a friendly wave, ignoring the fleeting concern in their eyes. News traveled fast. Everyone knew something was strange about him lately, though no one had the full story. He caught a glimpse of the Hokage monument in the distance and fell. A jolt of memory how he'd stood there last night, defying that voice in his head. I won't become some demon king. Mid-morning training ground 3. Come on, Naruto, Sakura called, beckoning him forward. Stay focused. They were in the midst of a routine training session. Kakashi had set up a series of moving targets for them to practice throwing kunai and shuriken with precision. Usually, Naruto's aim was passable at best. He tended to rely more on shadow clones or brute force. But as he gripped the throwing knives, he sensed that crackling undercurrent again. His reflexes were sharper, his senses more acute. He flicked his wrist, releasing 3 kunai in rapid succession. Each one struck dead center. Sakura's mouth dropped open slightly. Even Sasuke, leaning against a tree with crossed arms, gave a subtle lift of his eyebrow. Kakashi observed from a distance. I crinkled in a faint smile. Well, that's new. Naruto shrugged, feigning a casual tone. Just been practicing. Sasuke pushed off the tree. Practicing or not, your entire fighting style is changing. Don't act like this isn't a big deal. Naruto huffed. Why do you care? Worried I'll leave you behind. He expected a snappy retort or a glare. But Sasuke's face was more thoughtful than angry. If there's another power at play here, you'd better keep it in check, he said, voice low. No point bragging about it. It's going to turn you into something else. The comment stung more than Naruto expected. He clenched his jaw, ready with a comeback, but Kakashi intervened. All right, let's keep things civil. Naruto, nice job. Sasuke, your turn. As Sasuke moved to the target range, Sakura sidled closer to Naruto, her voice hushed. Try not to let him get to you. He's worried. Naruto blinked. Worried? Huh, could have fooled me. She sighed. I'm not saying he's handling it gracefully. But can you blame him? Her gaze flicked to where Sasuke was lobbing kunai with flawless form. We've all noticed how intense you've gotten. How quickly you're growing stronger. A spark of guilt flickered in Naruto's gut. He was aware that Sasuke lived for power, especially to avenge his clan. If Naruto suddenly skyrocketed past him, it would no doubt stir complicated feelings. Still, Naruto refused to apologize for something he barely understood himself. He forced a grin. Well, I'm still me, ya know. Sakura nodded, not entirely convinced but determined to trust him. Just be careful. Late morning village streets. After training, Kakashi dismissed them for the day, remarking on some upcoming mission they might undertake soon. Naruto meandered down the main street, picking up the scents of grilled fish and sweet dango. He was about to detour toward Ichiraku Ramen when a familiar voice called out. Hey, Naruto. He turned to see Ino waving from across the way, her blonde hair gleaming in the sunlight. She hurried over, a shopping bag in one hand. You free right now? She asked, smiling brightly. Naruto felt a flutter in his chest, remembering the heated kiss they'd shared in the training ground the previous evening. He shoved his hands in his pockets, feigning coolness. Kinda. Why? Got something in mind. She tapped her chin. Well, I was out shopping for some new kunoichi gear, and I thought maybe I'd treat myself to lunch. You wanna come? His stomach grumbled. He'd been about to eat anyway. Sure, he said, trying not to sound too eager. They ended up at a small cafe tucked between a flower shop and a weapons store. It was quieter than Ichiraku, with a few tables set under a shady awning. They slid into seats, ignoring the curious glance from an older lady at a nearby table. Naruto sensed that passers-by were still not entirely used to seeing him in more casual company, especially. A girl like Ino who usually had a wide circle of friends. Any new nightmares? She asked softly once they'd ordered. Her eyes darted around to ensure nobody was eavesdropping. Naruto tensed. Yeah, they're not stopping. She reached across the table, brushing her fingertips against his. You look tired. Didn't sleep well. Not really, he admitted. Then he forced a crooked grin. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. Had a good training session today, nailed the targets without even trying. She nodded, concern still etched in her expression. I guess that's good. But don't push yourself. This demon thing, I mean, I can't even imagine how that must feel. He wrestled with how much to say. Part of him wanted to downplay it, keep it light. Another part felt an urge to open up. It's weird, he began, voice low. I feel like something else is living inside me, separate from the fox. It's old, Ino, like older than the village, older than the tailed beasts. When I sleep, it tries to pee. Lull me into these memories or illusions of entire kingdoms bowing down to me. It's like I can hear the screams and the chanting at the same time. She gently squeezed his hand, her voice barely above a whisper. That sounds terrifying. Naruto exhaled. It is, but also, there's this twisted part of me that feels kinda, I don't know, strong. Like unstoppable. And I hate that I even like it a little. Ino's eyes softened. You're human. Power can feel good. But from what I know of you, Naruto, you'd never abuse it. You've always wanted recognition, but you also care about the people around you. That's not going to change just because you have some weird ancient force inside you. He let her words sink in, comforted by the confidence she showed in him. Moments later, their food arrived of rice bowls with grilled chicken and vegetables. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Ino complaining about her father's occasional nagging, Naruto teasing her about her fashion obsession. They laughed, bantered, and for a while, the swirling tension in Naruto's chest eased. But the sense of being watched never fully left him. Even as they ate, he found himself scanning the crowd. No sign of masked cultists or suspicious chakra. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that trouble was circling. Early afternoon somewhere in Konoha, Sasuke's POV. Sasuke Uchiha walked alone through a secluded walkway near the village's outer perimeter. Towering wooden fences and watchtowers loomed in the distance. He found himself drifting away from the busier streets whenever his mind was clouded. Right now, it was practically storming. He recalled the expression on Naruto's face when they sparred, that uncanny mixture of intense focus and casual confidence. It rattled Sasuke. In the past, Naruto's bravado was all volume and no subtlety. Now, there was something deeper, like a predator quietly sizing up its prey. He's grown so fast, too fast. The memory of his clan's massacre flickered in Sasuke's mind, fueling the anger and ambition that always smoldered there. He'd vowed to become stronger, to defeat a particular man. But how could he surpass that monster if Naruto kept leapfrogging him? He tightened his fists. I can't let this stand, he muttered. He wasn't wishing harm on Naruto, not exactly. But he refused to watch from the sidelines if Naruto possessed a power that made everything else trivial. The tension in Team 7 was thickening. Sasuke loathed feeling outclassed. A sudden shift in the atmosphere pulled him out of his thoughts. His finely honed senses picked up a faint presence nearby. Someone deliberately hiding their chakra. Sasuke froze, scanning the area. A swirl of leaves revealed a figure perched atop the fence, a woman wearing a hooded cloak, face mostly obscured. Who are you? Sasuke demanded. The figure cocked her head, as though curious. Not the one I seek. But an interesting child nonetheless. A spark of danger flared in Sasuke's gut. He slid a kunai from his pouch. If you're looking for a fight, you found one. She chuckled, the sound low and unsettling. I've no interest in you, Uchiha. Where is the vessel that houses the Demon King? Sasuke's blood ran cold. You mean Naruto. The hooded woman smiled beneath the cloak. So that is his name now. Good. Before Sasuke could react, she vanished in a blur of speed, leaving only a faint shimmer of malevolent chakra in her wake. Sasuke's heart hammered. More cultists after Naruto. And she'd known him by his clan name too. The threat was bigger than he'd realized. That's the second time, at least, that a stranger has come to the village seeking Naruto. This is a real problem. He decided he'd report to Kakashi immediately. Maybe he didn't like the idea of Naruto overshadowing him, but he also wouldn't let some lunatic rampage around Konoha. Mid-afternoon Anbu Interrogation Hall. Deep beneath the Hokage's tower, in a dimly lit corridor, Kakashi walked beside an Anbu operative, heading toward the holding cells. The hooded attacker from Naruto's first altercation, barely alive, had finally regained consciousness. The Hokage had authorized Kakashi to assist in questioning. They entered a small chamber with stone walls and a single table. Torches cast flickering shadows across the occupant. A gaunt man with bandaged arms, his face obscured by unkempt hair. Two Anbu stood guard at the door. Kakashi sat opposite the prisoner, fixing him with an even stare. "We hear you've been ranting about a Demon King." The man's lips curled into a broken grin. "It's more than a rant, copy ninja. Your precious village harbors the reincarnation of the great ruler, the one who once laid waste to empires. He's stirring. We can feel it." Kakashi suppressed a shudder. The man's voice had an unhinged quality. "Why are you after Naruto?" The prisoner's eyes bulged, a mix of fear and reverence. "We are not after him to harm him. We seek his awakening. The rightful Demon King shall rise. And those who stand in his path, they will be cleansed by fire and darkness." An Anbu to Kakashi's left scoffed softly. Kakashi remained calm. "If you come near him again, you can't possibly expect a thing but resistance from this village." The prisoner let out a wheezing laugh. "Ignorant fools, you raise your weapons against your own lord. When he claims his throne, the shinobi world will tremble." Kakashi leaned forward, voice turning colder. "Your cult is delusional. Naruto is his own person. Even if there's some ancient force involved, he's not a puppet for you or anyone else." The prisoner's laughter subsided, replaced by a venomous glare. "You believe that because you do not know him. But in time, the memories will consume your precious Jinchuriki. The line between friend and foe will blur, and your village will burn." Kakashi's temper flared briefly, though he kept his composure. "We're done here." He stood, signaling the Anbu to restrain the prisoner. As he left the chamber, the man's voice echoed after him. "Glory to the Demon King." His shadows spread across the land. The heavy door slammed shut, cutting off the deranged chanting. Kakashi rubbed his temples. This was worse than he'd feared. The village would need to prepare. Late afternoon Hokage's office. Kakashi, Sasuke, and the third Hokage gathered around a wide table covered in scrolls and documents. Sarutobi tapped one of the scrolls with a worn finger. "These records detail an obscure legend from the land of demons far to the west," he explained. "Mentions of a dark throne, and an immortal ruler who appeared centuries before the founding of the shinobi villages. Most dismissed it as myth. But it seems these cults believe otherwise." Kakashi nodded gravely. "The prisoner is convinced that Naruto is this reincarnation. And Sasuke encountered someone else in the village, apparently searching for him." Sarutobi's brow furrowed. "She was able to slip in and out without detection." Sasuke scowled. "Yes, she cornered me, but left the moment she confirmed Naruto's identity. I tried to pursue, but she vanished." The Hokage clasped his hands behind his back, staring out the window at the village below. "We must increase security. These cultists, if that's truly what they are bold enough to invade Konoha. And with Naruto as their target." Kakashi spoke up. "Lord Hokage, we need a plan. If these assailants keep coming, Naruto won't have a moment's peace. Not to mention the risk to civilians." Sarutobi nodded. "We'll station more discreet patrols around Naruto's usual haunts. I'll also alert Jiraiya he's traveling. But if he can be reached, he may have knowledge about older demonic lore. In the meantime, we keep Naruto informed but not frightened." Sasuke's expression was stoic. "Naruto doesn't scare easily." "True," Sarutobi conceded. "But this is no ordinary enemy." "Dismissed. For now. Stay vigilant." They bowed and left. As they walked down the corridor, Sasuke paused, turning to Kakashi. "Sensei, this is bigger than the fox, isn't it?" Kakashi's gaze was distant. "It seems so. But remember, Naruto is still Naruto. Don't let these cultists confuse you." Sasuke tensed. "I won't. But I have to keep up." Kakashi gave him a measured look. "Focus on your own path, Sasuke. Don't let this overshadow your goals." Without further words, Sasuke nodded and walked off, deep in thought. Kakashi watched him go, a sliver of concern gnawing at the back of his mind. Team 7 was about to be tested in ways none of them had anticipated. Early evening Naruto's apartment. Naruto leaned against his kitchen counter, rummaging through what little groceries he had left. Ramen cups, a few stale rice crackers, some random spices he'd picked up on a whim. Dinner options weren't looking great. A sharp knock at the door made him jump. He set aside the instant ramen packet and opened up. Hinata stood there, eyes wide. Naruto-kun, sorry for disturbing you. He blinked, momentarily caught off guard. Hinata, hey, everything okay? She blushed, fiddling with the hem of her jacket. I heard from Kurenai-sensei that your team was dealing with some dangerous people. And I just wanted to check on you. Naruto felt a surprising warmth in his chest. Hinata's shy concern always had a disarming effect on him. That's really nice of you. Thanks. Wanna come in? She nodded, stepping over the threshold. Naruto hastily cleared a space at the small table, brushing away old cups and a stray kunai. Hinata sat, hands folded in her lap, glancing around his messy apartment. He chuckled nervously. Sorry, it's a bit of a wreck. I don't always keep it, super tidy. She shook her head quickly. It's fine, I'm not judging. They exchanged a small smile. Naruto sat across from her. So, how've you been? Good. I've been training hard with Kiba and Shino. But I heard about these cult people targeting you. I was worried. Her eyes were steady, worry evident in every syllable. Naruto scratched his cheek. It's true. They seem obsessed with me being some kind of demon reincarnation. But honestly, I'm dealing with it. A faint tremor ran through Hinata's hands as she clasped them. I know you're strong. But if this is something supernatural like older than the Nine Tails, she hesitated, then found her courage. You don't have to face it alone. He softened, touched by her words. Thanks, Hinata, I appreciate that, really. She nodded, her blush intensifying. Silence fell, tension laced with a gentle undercurrent of affection. Naruto glanced at the short distance between them. It occurred to him that, for all her timidness, Hinata was braving a lot just to be here. Impulsively, he reached out and covered her hands with his own. Her eyes went wide. Listen, things are crazy right now, but it means a lot that you care. So if you ever need anything. Hinata swallowed, her gaze darting to their hands. Why, you can always talk to me, too. For a second, Naruto thought about leaning in, bridging the gap like he'd done with Ino. But he wasn't sure if Hinata was ready for that. Instead, he gave her hands a gentle squeeze, offering what comfort he could. Eventually, Hinata rose, mumbling about needing to get back before her father noticed she was gone. Naruto escorted her to the door, letting the moment linger. She paused on the threshold, turning to look at him over her shoulder. Be safe, she whispered, voice trembling with sincerity. You too, he said softly. When she slipped away into the night, Naruto couldn't help the swirl of conflicting emotions. He admired her sweet nature, felt drawn to her quiet strength. Yet his bond with Ino was also intensifying. He'd never had the attention of more than one girl at once, and the confusion was real. Why can't it just be about training and ramen? He lamented inwardly. But a small part of him liked the attention, the closeness. Maybe the demon aura was fueling a new confidence in how he dealt with people. Sighing, he returned to rummage for dinner, mind still a tangle of worry, gratitude, and that ever-present electric hum of otherworldly power. Late evening secret hideout on Konoha's outskirts. Far beyond the main streets and the watchful eyes of the village, in a half-collapsed shrine near the edge of the forest, the hooded woman Sasuke had encountered kneeled on a cracked stone floor. Flickering candlelight cast long shadows around her. A second figure stepped from the darkness, a tall man with intricate tattoos across his arms and a cruel set to his features. Well, he demanded. Did you confirm it? The woman bowed her head. Yes, the vessel is here in Konoha. The reincarnation is awakened though still incomplete. We must accelerate our plans. A twisted smile spread across the man's face. Excellent. Our brethren are gathering in the land of rivers. The ritual to fully restore our king's memories must be prepared. The woman rose, voice reverent. We must draw him out, break the village's defenses, and force the power to manifest. Then our king will have no choice but to reclaim his throne. They shared a silent understanding, the air heavy with anticipation. The candles flickered ominously, as though acknowledging the dark pact formed in that forgotten shrine. Nightfall. Naruto's apartment. Naruto's POV. Naruto lay on his bed, arms crossed behind his head, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Outside, the nocturnal hum of the village carried on. Distant footsteps, muffled chatter, an owl hooting from some rooftop. Despite everything, he felt restless. His body buzzed with leftover adrenaline. His mind refusing to settle. Every time he closed his eyes, the image of a black throne flickered behind his eyelids. That voice, deep, resonant, ancient, would murmur half-formed words about crowns and conquests. I am not that person. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it. He tried to bolster himself with the usual bravado, but the nightmares had chipped away at his certainty. His fists clenched in the sheets. Maybe a late night walk would calm him. Rising from bed, he quickly changed into a black hoodie and standard shinobi trousers. Slipping out the window to avoid the extra patrolling shinobi he suspected the Hokage had stationed, he landed silently on the dark street below. Village rooftops. Moments later, under the moonlight, Naruto bounded from one rooftop to another. Enjoying the cool brush of the night air, he could see the silhouettes of watchtowers and the faint glow of lanterns scattered across Konoha. The gentle hush soothed his nerves. Eventually, he stopped atop a sloped roof. Gazing at the starlit sky, he breathed in, letting the crisp air fill his lungs. If he could just hold on to these small moments, simple and peaceful, maybe he'd keep that other side at bay. Then, from the corner of his eye, he spotted a cloaked shape darting across a distant rooftop. Naruto's heart lurched. Could it be one of those cultists? He took off in pursuit, leaping across gaps between buildings with startling agility. The figure moved swiftly, too, weaving through chimneys and antennae. Naruto pushed himself harder, fueled by a simmer of anger. Enough was enough. He closed the distance until he landed on a tiled roof a few yards behind them. Hey, he shouted, voice echoing in the silent night. Stop running. The cloaked figure paused, turning slowly. The hood fell back, revealing a young man with jagged scars across his cheeks and eyes that glowed faintly red in the moonlight. He regarded Naruto with an unsettling calm. So, we meet again, Demon King. Naruto's pulse pounded. You people really need new lines. I'm not your king. The man smirked, revealing sharp canines. You can't deny your nature forever. We're here to guide you. Guide me, Naruto snarled, stepping forward. You show up in my home, attack me in my village, then talk about guiding. I don't need you. A swirl of malevolent chakra shimmered around the man's hands, forming claw-like extensions. It's unfortunate you resist, but we can't allow your potential to be wasted. You will awaken willingly or otherwise. Without waiting for an answer, the man lunged, slashing the air with those chakra claws. Naruto ducked, the tiles beneath him shredded by the strike. He had to move carefully. Fighting on rooftops in the middle of the village could endanger civilians below. Naruto clenched his fists, channeling the well of power he felt inside. Usually, he'd rely on the nine tails for a power boost. But this demonic aura stirred easily, almost too eagerly. A wave of heat surged through him, and for a moment, he swore the night sky tinted red. Back off, he growled, throwing a punch. The air rippled with an unseen force. His fist didn't connect physically, he was too far. Yet an invisible shockwave blasted the cultist, hurling him across the rooftop. Tiles exploded in the wake of the impact. Naruto stared at his own hand, stunned. The cultist coughed, pushing himself up with trembling arms. Even that fraction of your power, magnificent. Naruto grit his teeth. Shut up. He sprang forward, but the cultist sank into a swirl of shadow, vanishing like smoke on the wind. Naruto skidded to a halt, scanning the area with heightened senses, only to find no trace. He could hear the approach of shinobi footsteps, likely the nighttime patrol alerted by the noise. Naruto clenched his fist again, mind spinning. What was that? Did I just throw a punch from a distance? The memory of the shockwave lingered, evidence of an ability he'd never possessed before. Was this another gift from that demon presence? Kunais whizzed by, landing near the broken tiles. Two village jonin sprang onto the roof, eyes darting around. Naruto, what happened here? He forced a sheepish grin. Some weirdo attacked me, but he got away. They surveyed the damage. Shattered tiles, deep claw marks. One of them frowned. We need to report this. You okay? Naruto nodded. Yeah, I'll head home. He left before they could ask more questions. In truth, he didn't have answers. His heart thundered with residual adrenaline, and that new ability frightened him. Could he risk unleashing more of it next time? Or would it consume him entirely? Later that night, Naruto's apartment, Naruto's POV, introspection. Naruto trudged back through his window, sinking onto his bed, mind buzzing with 1,000 thoughts. That encounter proved the cultists had a well-coordinated presence in Konoha, able to slip in and out at will. They knew exactly how to provoke his power, too. They want me to awaken. That was the crux of it. Every attack, every confrontation, was a twisted attempt to coax him into embracing the Demon King's mantle. His fists tightened on the blanket. They can keep trying, but I'm not falling for it. He hissed under his breath. Yet a tiny voice at the back of his mind whispered, "What if you have no choice?" He closed his eyes. Images of a grand, black fortress flickered. An army of monstrous silhouettes chanted his name. It was a future or a past that haunted him. Naruto Uzumaki, or a Demon King reborn. Which one am I? Sleep came, eventually, dragging him into uneasy dreams where the boundaries between the two identities blurred. Dawn Team 7 meeting spot. The sky had barely lightened when Naruto arrived at the usual bridge. Sasuke and Sakura were already there, each sporting signs of a restless night. Kakashi arrived shortly after, raising a hand in greeting. "Morning, all," Kakashi said, eye smiling. "Though you look like you haven't slept much." Naruto gave a half-hearted shrug. "Kinda busy night." Sasuke huffed. "He means cultists attacked him again, on a rooftop." Sakura gasped. "Naruto, are you okay?" He nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine. They appeared before I could do anything else." Kakashi studied him carefully. "We heard from the Jonin who investigated the damage. That's the third time in as many days. This is escalating." Naruto felt a surge of frustration. "So what's the plan, sensei? We can't just wait around for them to strike again." Before Kakashi could respond, a masked messenger leapt down from a nearby tree, bowing to them. "Lord Hokage requests your presence immediately, Kakashi. And Team 7 as well." They exchanged glances. "Let's go," Kakashi said, leading the way toward the Hokage's tower. Hokage's office emergency briefing. Team 7 stepped into the office to find Sarutobi flanked by two elders of the village council, Homura and Kaharu. Their presence hinted at the gravity of the situation. Around them, various Jonin, including Kurenai and Asuma, stood with serious expressions. The third Hokage addressed the room. "We've received intelligence that a larger force of this cult calling themselves the Claw of Abaddon is gathering in the Land of Rivers, near the Fire Country border. Our scouts report sightings of strange rituals. It's likely they plan to lure Naruto out, or possibly stage an incursion." A murmur of concern rippled through the group. Kurenai stepped forward. "Should we consider evacuating Naruto or strengthening his protection detail?" Homura, one of the council elders, cleared his throat. "We can't just hide him away. The boy is a valuable asset to Konoha, and removing him from the village might weaken our stance." Naruto bristled at being called a boy and an asset, but he kept quiet for once. Sarutobi glanced at Naruto, his tone softer. "We need a more direct approach. If their main base is indeed near the border, we can form a strike team to investigate, gather intel, and eliminate this cult's leadership if possible. Ending their operations might stop these constant incursions." Sasuke smirked, clearly itching for action. Sakura looked wary but resolute. Naruto felt a surge of relief finally. A chance to take the fight to them. Kakashi raised his hand. "I'd like to propose that Team 7 be part of this operation. We have direct experience with these cultists. Naruto is obviously a key factor." A murmur ran through the room, some Jonin looking hesitant. "He's their target," one pointed out. "Taking him to their stronghold is risky." Kakashi nodded. "True, but Naruto's presence might be necessary to draw out their leaders. We'll have a strong supporting force, and I'll ensure Naruto's safety." Sarutobi considered this. He looked to Naruto. "Are you up for this, my boy? It's dangerous, and you've been under constant stress." Naruto lifted his chin, steeling himself. "I'm ready, Lord Hokage. I'm sick of waiting for them to come to me. I want to protect the village. I won't run from them. The third Hokage exhaled, nodding. Very well. Team 7 will form the core of an infiltration and strike squad. I'll assign additional Jonin as backup. You leave at first light tomorrow. As the meeting dispersed, Naruto felt both anticipation and dread. He was stepping into the lion's den, but maybe that was the only way to put an end to these crimson whispers, calling him a king. Later that day, Training Ground 7, brief strategy session. Team 7 gathered in a secluded spot near the lake within Training Ground 7. Kakashi spread out a map on a fallen log, indicating the region near the land of rivers. Here's where they've been sighted. We'll approach from the east, hopefully avoiding detection until we're close enough to gather intel. Sakura traced the routes with her fingertip. We can set up a secure camp along the riverbank. That might give us a vantage point. Sasuke folded his arms. And if they sense Naruto, they'll probably come running, right? Kakashi nodded. That's the idea, but we're not rushing in blindly. We'll have backup from Team Asuma and Team Kurenai, positioned at strategic points. Naruto stared at the map, a cold determination creeping into his voice. Let them come. Kakashi regarded him carefully. Remember, the objective is not just to fight. We need to dismantle their network. If we eliminate their leaders, the rest might fall apart. Naruto tightened his fists. Understood. Evening, a quiet moment before departure. Naruto's POV. After finalizing preparations, Naruto found himself wandering the village again, alone. The next day's mission weighed on him. Would confronting these cultists head-on make the demon power inside him flare uncontrollably? Could he keep it in check? As he passed a small park, he was surprised to see Sakura sitting on a bench, gazing at the sunset reflecting off a pond. He hesitated, then approached. Mind if I sit? He asked. She glanced up, smiling faintly. Go ahead. He settled beside her, trying to find something to say. The soft glow of orange light bathed the park. Kids played in the distance. A couple walked by, hand in hand. After a moment, Sakura spoke quietly. Nervous about tomorrow. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. A bit. Mostly. I'm done with waiting. I want answers. She nodded. Me too. I hate not knowing how to help you. These nightmares, this power. I just want you to be safe. He appreciated her concern. They sat in silence for a while, the evening air growing cooler. Eventually, he mustered the courage to slide a bit closer. Her eyes flicked to him. Startled but not pulling away. Thanks for worrying, he said softly, voice a little husky. I'll come back, I promise. She exhaled, leaning against him just enough to show trust. You'd better. For a split second, he contemplated the closeness. The scent of her hair, the subtle warmth of her shoulder pressed to his. There was a sense of something shifting between them, overshadowed by the danger lurking beyond the village walls. But in that moment, he felt a flicker of contentment. Friends, teammates, maybe something more. Late night, Naruto's apartment, pre-mission resolve. Back in his cluttered room, Naruto double-checked his gear. Kunai, shuriken, a few scrolls with sealed provisions, and essential ninja tools. His gaze swept the small space, lingering on personal mementos. He paused at a photo of Team 7 taken right after they'd first been assigned. A rush of nostalgia hit him. How much things had changed since then. He set the photo aside gently. I'm not alone in this. As he crawled into bed, he mentally prepared for another battle with nightmares. But this time, the dread felt tempered by the knowledge he had friends Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi, Hinata, Ino who cared. Maybe that was enough to keep his mind from sliding into the darkness. Chapter 2 Finale. A glimpse into the abyss. Nightmare sequence. Naruto's dream. He stands on the edge of a vast, jagged cliff, overlooking a field of twisted black spires that stab at the sky. Rivers of molten rock flow below, lighting the darkness with a crimson glow. Thunder rumbles overhead, and the air reeks of sulfur. A booming voice reverberates through the landscape, shaking the ground. King, why do you resist? Naruto peers down to see legions of inhuman creatures bowing, their eyes burning with infernal light. Every head is lowered, every clawed hand outstretched in worship. The sound of their chanting hammers at his skull, a single word repeated over and over, Majesty. 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 He tries to speak, to deny them. But no sound comes. Looking at his own hands, Naruto realizes they're encased in onyx gauntlets etched with ancient runes. A heavy mantle of black steel rests on his shoulders. His heart pounds. He whirls around to escape, but the spires shift, forming a cruel path that leads to a towering throne carved from obsidian. Its seat is embedded with rubies that gleam like fresh blood. Your throne awaits. The voice intones, resonating in the pit of his stomach. Naruto staggers back. He wants to tear off the armor, wants to scream that he's not this monster. But his body moves against his will. Drawn inexorably forward, each step is agony. Shadows coil around his ankles, whispering dark promises. Just as he's about to be forced onto the throne, a blazing light splits the sky like a flare of bright chakra. The illusions recoil. Naruto finds himself free, panting, heart hammering. The monstrous legion howls in fury. You cannot hide forever, the deep voice roars. Soon, you will remember everything. And this world will kneel. The ground crumbles beneath him, and he falls, plummeting into a chasm of swirling darkness. He jolts awake, drenched in sweat, chest heaving. Dawn's first light leaks through the window, and the alarm clock buzzes shrilly. It takes him a moment to orient himself. Another dream more intense than ever. But the sense of claws pulling him to that throne had felt horribly real. He clutches the sheets, breathing ragged. In a few hours, Team 7 would set out to face the cult directly. The conflict he'd been dragged into was about to escalate dramatically. And deep down, Naruto could feel the stirrings of a power that was both terrifying and exhilarating. A single thought pierces his racing mind. I won't let them win. I'll never become that tyrant, no matter what it takes. Outside, the village prepared for another day, unaware that the fate of an ancient terror might hinge on this mission. Naruto swallowed the fear rising in his throat, steeling himself. He was ready to fight, to protect the people he cared about. The demon's whispers would not define him. Chapter 3 Inches Bound by Night. Morning's first light gleamed on the newly formed strike force assembled at Konoha's main gate. Team 7 stood at the forefront. Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi. Flanking them were additional shinobi from Teams Asuma and Kurenai, each prepared to head toward the Land of Rivers, where the cult that called themselves the Claw of Abaddon was supposedly gathering in force. There was a buzz of tension and readiness in the air. For Naruto, it felt like the culmination of all the attacks and cryptic hints about his so-called Demon King power. Today, they'd go on the offensive. He rolled his shoulders, trying to ease the knots of anticipation coiling in his muscles. Kakashi surveyed the group with a calm eye. Everyone here. Good. Let's move out. They set off, a formation of experienced Jonin and capable genin, slipping through the village gates into the open fields and winding trails beyond. As the sturdy walls of Konoha shrank behind them, Naruto felt a quiet swirl of emotions, excitement to finally strike back, but also a trace of dread. If the cult wanted him so badly, it meant they'd be ready. Mid-morning Forest rode toward the Land of Rivers. Their journey began uneventfully. The strike force traveled in smaller squads. For mobility, Kakashi led Team 7 up front, with Asuma, Kurenai, and a few other Jonin spaced out behind. Quiet conversation passed between them, the rustle of leaves overhead blending with the crunch of dirt underfoot. Sakura consulted a map. If we follow this route, we'll reach the outer border by late afternoon. Kakashi nodded. We'll set a temporary camp near the riverside, then proceed under cover of darkness to do some reconnaissance. Don't assume we're safe even if the path seems empty, stay alert. Naruto padded next to Sasuke. The tension between them hadn't quite eased since Naruto's power surge became increasingly obvious. There was a trace of challenge in Sasuke's eyes whenever he glanced over. Naruto tried not to let it bother him, focusing on the mission. Slightly behind them, Sakura occasionally looked Naruto's way, her worry apparent. She seemed torn between trust in his strength and fear for what might happen if he lost control. A bit further back was a second squad that included Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji under Asuma's watchful eye. Naruto felt a little shiver of anticipation he'd catch glimpses of Ino's bright hair if he turned. Though outwardly calm, part of him recalled their closeness. That playful heat in her eyes. It mixed oddly with the presence of Hinata somewhere in the formation as well, from Kurenai's team. The swirl of personal feelings only added to his internal storm. A breeze carried the scent of pine and damp earth. Naruto glanced up, blinking at the bright sky. It seemed so serene, belying the danger that lurked in the land of rivers. Despite everything, he found himself recalling the dream again. A black throne, monstrous armies, a harsh voice commanding him to reign. He shook his head, forcing it away. Not now. He had to stay focused on the mission. Not get lost in those images. Noon brief halt in a clearing. They paused for a short rest. Soldiers' ration packs were handed around. Most of them settled in small clusters to eat what? Chful of the tree lines for any sign of threat. Ino made her way to Naruto, passing Shikamaru and Choji who were busy discussing last night's card game. She greeted Naruto with a warm smirk. Not too tired, are you? He snorted. Tired? Never. You'd pass out before me, Ino. She gave him a light elbow. Bold, Mr. Demon King. He stiffened slightly at the phrase, but her tone was teasing, not reverent or fearful. It was a strange relief she wasn't worshipping him or trying to exploit him like the cult. She was just Ino. Don't call me that, he mumbled. Sorry, she said, face softening. I know it's complicated. Just trying to keep things light. You look tense. Naruto shot her a lopsided grin. Well, it's not every day a bunch of crazies want me to become their ancient ruler. Hard to chill out about that. Ino nodded, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. Guess so. Her gaze flicked toward the edge of the clearing, where Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi were gathered. Anyway, watch yourself out there. If things get bad, I'll be around. The gentle sincerity in her voice sparked a small rush of warmth in Naruto's chest. He gave a playful half-bow. Duly noted, milady. She rolled her eyes at his mock formality. But a tiny smile tugged at her lips. A surge of teenage boldness made him lean in and plant a quick, soft kiss at the corner of her mouth, hidden from the rest. The group by the angle of their bodies. She inhaled sharply, eyes widening for a fraction of a second, and then she smacked his shoulder lightly. Geez, she whispered, cheeks pink. Keep that up and rumors will spread like wildfire. Let them talk, Naruto quipped, stepping back. But he felt the flutter of excitement in his stomach, oddly at odds with the seriousness of the mission. For a moment, it reminded him he was more than just a ticking time bomb of demon power. He returned to the front of the clearing where Sasuke was finishing a brief conversation with Kakashi. Sasuke glanced Naruto's way, expression unreadable. Naruto wondered if he'd caught sight of that exchange with Ino, but Sasuke said nothing. Probably bigger things on his mind. Afternoon approaching the border. The rain shifted from dense forest to a rockier landscape dotted with shrubs and winding streams that fed into the main river up ahead. The air grew more humid, carrying the scent of water. They passed a lone fisherman's hut, but otherwise, the area was deserted. Sakura wiped a sheen of sweat from her brow. We should be close now. Sure enough, an hour later they heard the rush of a wide river. Kakas. Hai signaled the group to halt in the cover of thick trees. They peered out at a valley where the water curved in a gentle bend. Beyond it lay the land of rivers, with rolling hills and scattered rocky outcrops. Kakashi spoke quietly to Asuma and Kurenai, forming a plan. We'll set base here, just off the main route. We keep a low profile until nightfall, then cross the river under cover of darkness. Our intel says the cult's hideout is a few miles inland from the opposite bank. Naruto studied the distant horizon. He thought he saw something glint, a structure or a watchtower perched on a ridge. A prickle of unease trailed down his spine. They're waiting. Nightfall infiltration begins. A crescent moon hung in the sky, providing faint light as the squads made their cautious crossing. One by one, they used subtle water-walking chakra techniques to traverse the river in near silence. Night insects hummed around them, occasionally drowned out by the sound of rushing water. Kakashi held up a hand, halting them on the far bank. From here, we split. Team Kurenai and Team Asuma will move in a wide arc, scouting for any hidden sentries. Team 7 goes straight for that ridge to investigate. Keep radio contact minimal only if necessary. Let's not advertise our presence. Naruto couldn't help the twist of excitement in his stomach. Finally, they were on the hunt, not just waiting to be ambushed. Let's see how these creeps handle it now. Sakura, Sasuke and Naruto followed Kakashi up a sloping path. The moonlit landscape revealed jagged rock formations and sparse vegetation. A cold wind stirred, making the night air feel sharper. Several times they paused, scanning for hidden guards. They saw or sensed no one, almost too quiet, considering the rumored cult activity. Then, near a rocky outcrop, Sasuke spotted a faint glow. He gestured silently. The four of them crept closer. Over the ridge, a cluster of figures in dark robes stood around a flickering bonfire. Beyond them lay a dilapidated temple structure half buried in the ground. Kakashi's voice was barely audible. "Looks like we found a welcoming committee." Naruto felt his heartbeat spike. Even from this distance, he sensed something ominous in the air. As if the place itself exuded malevolence. A whisper at the back of his mind. "Come closer." He bit down on the inside of his cheek, forcing the voice aside. Moments later, first encounter. They split to encircle the group of cultists by the bonfire. Kakashi gave the signal, and in a flash, Team 7 sprang from multiple angles. Kunai flew, pinning one cultist's robe to a wooden post. Sasuke unleashed a quick burst of fire jutsu, scorching the ground near another. Sakura immobilized a third with a precise blow to the legs. Naruto dashed toward a fourth, who turned with a snarl. This robed figure's eyes gleamed with that eerie red glow he'd seen before. "The king is here," the cultist rasped in near ecstasy. "Praise Abaddon, he has come to us." Naruto landed a swift kick to the man's midsection, driving him to his knees. "Don't call me that," he growled. The cultist coughed, but his fanatic grin never wavered. "You may deny it, but your power calls to us, king." Naruto suppressed a shiver. "Focus on the mission. Where is your base? Who's in charge?" Instead of answering, the man let out a shrill whistle. Instantly, from the shadows around the temple, more robed figures emerged. A wave of twisted chakra flared. Kakashi's eye widened beneath his headband. Sasuke spun, whipping out a kunai. "We're surrounded." The robed devotees hissed and chanted, forming a tight circle. Naruto could sense the energy in the air, a building vortex of something dark. He remembered how just one or two cultists in Konoha had put up a fight. Now, a dozen or more advanced, each exuding that malignant aura. Kakashi shifted into a defensive stance. "Team 7, keep it tight. Don't let them separate us." Sakura steadied herself, eyes darting around. Sasuke's Sharingan blazed to life. Naruto braced for impact. Cinematic clash. It happened in an instant. Robed figures lunged with unnatural speed, some wielding greenish flame, others extending claw-like chakra from their fingers. Kakashi launched a lightning blade, cutting through the first wave and forcing the cultists to scatter. Sasuke pivoted, releasing a volley of fireballs that exploded against the rocky ground, illuminating the area in bursts of orange. One cultist shrieked as the flames licked his robes, but another darted in from behind, forcing Sasuke into a rapid exchange of blows. Sakura hammered the ground with a chakra-enhanced punch, sending rubble flying and knocking two cultists off their feet. She grit her teeth, adrenaline surging. "Naruto, watch your left." Naruto twisted just in time, meeting a cultist's flaming blade with his forearm. A normal arm would have been slashed open, but to his shock, the cut only grazed him and instantly sealed, leaving merely a thin line across his skin. Anger flared. He retaliated with a vicious punch, feeling that intangible surge of demonic chakra amplify his strength. The cultist soared backward, crashing into a broken column. The robed enemies muttered "Fr. Antic chants. He awakens, our lord stirs." Their lord? Naruto clenched his fists. "I'm not your lord," he hissed, but the next wave came too quickly for more words. He found himself weaving through the press of attackers, each move guided by an almost preternatural instinct. Blows that should have grazed him somehow missed by inches. Each return strike he delivered felt heavier, more precise than any training could account for. Part of him thrilled at the ease of it. Another part felt the ominous shadow of the demon presence unfurling in his mind. Cult reinforcements in a sinister portal. Our immediate foes began to falter under Team 7's assault, but an ominous rumble echoed from the direction of the temple entrance. The bonfire's flames flickered wildly, as if caught in a gale. Suddenly, the ground near the temple split open, revealing a swirling mass of dark chakra, a crude portal of sorts. A deep, chanting roar emanated from the portal. More cultists emerged, these wearing heavier robes adorned with bizarre symbols. One woman with pale, scarred cheeks raised her arms and shrieked, "Come forth, O blessed hound of Abaddon!" With that, a monstrous shape slithered out of the portal. It resembled a giant, skeletal wolf with glowing crimson eyes, dripping with spectral flames. Its howl rattled the air. Sakura's face went pale. That's not a normal summon, is it? Kakashi's voice tightened. No, some sort of demon familiar. We handle it together, be careful. The skeletal wolf bounded forward, jaws snapping. Sasuke moved first, unleashing a barrage of kunai and fiery blasts. But it seemed to pass through the creature's ribs without fully stopping it. The cultists laughed in eerie unison. Naruto's pulse thundered. He felt that black aura inside him resonate with the demon wolf's presence. As if they were two notes in the same sinister chord. The voice in his head stirred. Command it. You are the king. He shook his head violently, refusing that call. Kakashi yelled, Naruto, we need your raw power on this one. We can't let it run loose. Naruto hesitated only a moment. If a monstrous beast was rampaging, he had to put it down. Summoning his chakra and feeling that darker edge slip in, he dashed straight at the wolf's flank. It lunged, spectral teeth snapping. He vaulted onto its back with lightning speed, ignoring the searing flames that licked his legs. With a guttural shout, he drove a surge of chakra into the creature's spine. A shockwave crackled, sending arcs of black-red energy dancing across its bones. The wolf writhed, howling in agony. The cultists shrieked in a mix of awe and fear. Sakura and Sasuke took the opening, bombarding it with simultaneous blows. Sasuke's chidori crackled against its skull. Sakura's chakra punch hammered through its rib cage. With a final, unearthly wail, the demonic wolf splintered into black wisps that dispersed into the night. For a moment, everything was still. The cultists stared at Naruto as if witnessing a prophecy come to life. One of them dropped to their knees, voice trembling. All hail, the king. Naruto's chest heaved, fists crackling with residual energy. Stop calling me that, he growled. But deep inside, he felt the power surging, dangerously addictive. It frightened him how natural it felt. Retreat into the temple. Sensing the battle turning against them, the robed fanatics began retreat into the depths of the crumbling temple. Kakashi signaled Team 7. We follow, but proceed cautiously. They might be leading us into a trap. They advanced, stepping over rubble and columns adorned with archaic symbols. The temple's interior was dimly lit by torches and thick with the stench of incense. Narrow corridors branched off in multiple directions, lit by flickering flames that cast dancing shadows on the walls. A chilling echo of chanting reverberated from somewhere below. Sasuke's eyes darted back and forth, scanning for illusions or traps. Sakura moved behind him, kunai in hand. Naruto felt that insistent hum beneath his skin, more potent with each step into this ancient structure. They reached a large subterranean chamber, a cavernous space supported by massive stone pillars. In the center stood a grotesque statue of some horned figure. Cultists circled it, hands raised, chanting in a language Naruto didn't recognize. Their voices rose in a crescendo as the shinobi arrived. Stop this now, Kakashi commanded, voice echoing off the walls. His Sharingan glinted dangerously, ready for any sign of threat. One cultist, a tall man with tattoos swirling across his face, turned. You do not understand. We only do as destiny demands. His gaze locked on Naruto. Lord Abaddon, the rightful demon king, your seat awaits. The blood throne will be ours again. Naruto's stomach twisted. I'm not your demon king. He repeated, voice rough with anger. I'm a shinobi of Konoha. And you're done terrorizing people. The man's expression was a mix of reverence and scorn. You speak with mortal fear. But your aura betrays you. That moment outside, when you subdued the Hound of Abaddon, you cannot deny the bond you share with the old ways. Naruto snarled, stepping forward, fists clenched. He could feel an infernal heat building in his core. He wanted to deny everything, yet a flicker of memory teased the edges of his mind. A giant fortress in a scarlet wasteland, monstrous servants bowing. Was it truly just a dream? Before he could speak, Kakashi threw a kunai. We're not here for a debate. The blade cut across the cult leader's arm. Blood splattered on the stone floor. The other cultists hissed, some turning to flee. The tall man let out a pained laugh. So be it. If you will not ascend willingly, we shall force the memory upon you." He pressed his bloodied arm to the statue's base, chanting rapidly. The air crackled with energy. Dark lines rippled through the floor in a circular pattern, some kind of ritual seal. Kakashi recognized the danger. "Naruto, get back." But the sealing array flared to life. In an instant, inky energy snaked across the chamber like living vines, converging on Naruto. He felt them latch onto his arms and legs, pinning him in place. His muscles strained, but the unnatural power held him tight. Sasuke and Sakura lunged to help, only to be intercepted by more cultists. The robed zealots fought with renewed fervor, chanting in unison. The entire chamber thrummed with an oppressive hum. Naruto's vision blurred. The black lines crawled over his body, and he heard the cult leader's voice echo, "Witness the truth of your past, King. Relive the glory and despair you once wrought upon this earth." A sudden surge of pain lanced through Naruto's skull, like white-hot needles. He cried out, knees buckling. Kakashi's frantic shout echoed, but the world faded into darkness. Naruto's paw of a forced vision. He stood in a field of ash under a sky the color of blood. Spires of black stone jutted from the ground, reminiscent of the nightmares he'd been having. But this time it felt real, visceral. The stench of sulfur and decay choked the air. Ahead, an impossibly tall fortress loomed, walls built of obsidian and jagged metal. Ega engines lay shattered around its base. Legions of twisted beings knelt in supplication, some humanoid, others monstrous. At the center of this silent army was him, clad in dark armor, eyes glowing with an unearthly light. This mirror image of himself was older, regal, exuding an unstoppable aura. "We are one," the doppelganger said, voice resonating like thunder. "You've run from me long enough. Embrace your birthright." Naruto stared, shaking his head. "No, I'm not you." The Demon King doppelganger gestured to the kneeling army. "They are your legacy. You subjugated realms, shaped the land with fear and might. You fell in battle once, but your spirit could not die. Now you walk among mortals as a vessel with sealed memories. But that seal erodes." Rage welled up in Naruto. "I refuse. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, not some ancient butcher." He advanced, fists trembling, but each step felt like he was wading through thick tar. The doppelganger's eyes narrowed. "That's the name you took in this life. But you cannot deny what you are, what we are." The fortress behind him pulsed with an eerie glow. "You will either rule again, or everything you love will burn." Naruto screamed in defiance. He entire vision shuddered like broken glass. Reality, the temple chamber. A roar of raw chakra erupted from Naruto's body. The black lines constraining him disintegrated, the ritual seal cracking under the backlash. The cult leader staggered, eyes wide with shock. Naruto's power spiked so violently that some of the pillars in the chamber fractured, raining debris. Sasuke shielded his eyes from the swirling wind. "That's Naruto's chakra, but it feels..." He couldn't even finish the thought. It felt ancient, suffocating, borderline savage. Sakura's heart pounded. She'd witnessed Naruto draw on the nine tails before. But this energy was something else entirely. Kakashi moved to intervene, but even he hesitated. The swirling aura around Naruto had a blackish-red hue, flickering like flames. Naruto stood there, panting, eyes blazing gold for an instant. The cultists gazed in awe and terror. The tall man coughed, staggering backward. "Why, yes, that is the might of Abaddon, the true Demon King." Naruto's gaze snapped to him. For a terrifying second, it looked like Naruto was about to lash out with lethal force. But then a flicker of humanity returned to his eyes. He ground his teeth, forcibly reining in the swirling energy. He refused to lose himself, refused to become a monster. "We're done here," he rasped. In a burst of speed that seemed to shatter the sound barrier, Naruto drove a chakra-laced punch into the statue's base. The entire stone effigy cracked, the cult's dark seal unraveling with a flash of sparks. The cult leader let out a despairing cry as the statue collapsed, burying him under chunks of rubble. The rest of the cultists scattered in panic, some pinned by debris, others fleeing deeper into the temple's corridors. Kakashi, seizing the moment, regrouped with Team 7. "We've got to get out of here. This place is coming down." Thunderous rumbles echoed through the subterranean hull as the structural integrity gave way. Sasuke rushed forward to help an unsteady Naruto, who seemed on the brink of collapse. That raging aura dissipating, Sakura hurried to support Naruto's other side. Naruto took a shaky breath. I'm okay. Let's move. Escape from the temple. The corridors shook, torches toppling. Cracks spreading across the walls. Team 7 navigated the collapsing halls, stepping over unconscious cultists or broken columns. Dust choked the air. Every few yards, pieces of the ceiling fell in. Kakashi used precise lightning jutsu to blast a path clear, while Sakura's raw strength shattered any large debris blocking the way. Amid the chaos, they spotted a few robed figures trying to escape. Some coughed from the dust, half buried. Naruto paused, eyes lingering on them fanatics who had tried to force him into a dark legacy. A fleeting moral debate flickered in his mind. Ultimately, he bit back the bitterness and gestured for Sasuke to help him clear rubble from one trapped cultist's leg. Even if these people had attacked him, he wouldn't leave them to die. That wasn't who he was. Sasuke, though clearly conflicted, assisted. The cultist, delirious, murmured, my king, my king." Naruto tried to ignore it, pressing on once they freed him. Finally, they emerged from the crumbling temple into the night air. The entire structure collapsed behind them with a deafening roar, kicking up a cloud of dust and debris. For a long moment, the four of them stood under the moonlight. Catching their breath, Kakashi sighed in relief. Is everyone in one piece? Sakura nodded, wiping grime from her cheek. We're fine. But Naruto, she eyed him with deep concern. You looked like you were in agony back there. Naruto's head pounded, the forced vision still swirling in his mind. It was the ritual. They tried to make me remember stuff. It's all jumbled. Sasuke clenched his fists. What did you see? Quote. Naruto hesitated, uncertain how to convey the horror of the fortress, the kneeling armies, that older version of himself. I'm not even sure, he lied partially. Just more nightmares. I'm still me, though. Kakashi placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. That's what matters. A distant series of explosions rumbled to the east. Kakashi's head snapped up. The T might be Team Asuma or Team Kurenai engaging other cult squads. Come on. They hurried in the direction of the noise, leaving the collapsed temple behind them a symbolic grave for the twisted statue. And the cult leader who had triggered the ritual. Alliance on the battlefield. Some distance away, near a rocky ravine, a fierce skirmish had broken out. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji fought alongside Asuma, holding off several cultists who hurled blasts of dark chakra. Shikamaru's shadow possession pinned two enemies, while Choji used his partial expansion jutsu to slam another into the ground. Ino darted in with well-timed strikes, her agility surprising even Naruto as he and Team 7 arrived. Kurenai and her team Hinata, Kiba, Shino were locked in combat with yet more cultists. Hinata's Byakugan flared as she delivered a precise strike to a robed woman's chakra network. Kiba and Akamaru circled around, leveraging clan jutsu for quick attacks. Shino's bugs clouded the night air, swarming any foe who got too close. Naruto's arrival, still radiating remnants of that black-red aura, caused several cultists to recoil in either terror or rapturous devotion. He's here. Team 7 joined the fray, systematically taking down stragglers. The cult's morale clearly wavered after losing their temple stronghold. One by one, they fell, some surrendering outright, others collapsing in exhaustion. Everil tried to stand between Naruto and the rest, muttering about protecting the king, but he bulldozed past them, furious at their twisted obsession. When it was over, the dust settled on a field, strewn with unconscious or groaning cultists. A few had perished in the battle, but many remained alive, captured or incapacitated. The Konoha shinobi converged to regroup, patching wounds and counting heads. Ino spotted Naruto, relief evident on her face. She jogged over, panting. Glad you're okay. We heard this insane quake from your direction, figured something big went down. Naruto nodded, forcing a wry grin. Yeah, you could say that. She looked him over, worry in her eyes. You're a mess. Indeed, his jacket was ripped, dust clung to his hair, and faint scorch marks marred his sleeves. Better than the alternative, he said, trying to sound lighthearted, but a tremor in his voice betrayed how rattled he really was. His gaze flicked to Hinata, who was carefully wrapping a bandage around Kiba's arm. She noticed Naruto and offered a small, relieved smile from across the battlefield. He gave a tired nod, acknowledging her concern. Asuma and Kurenai pulled Kakashi aside. They RRED about the next steps, rounding up the cultists, searching for any hidden bases, and securing the area. Meanwhile, Shikamaru sighed, scratching his head. This turned into quite the drag, huh? Choji patted him on the shoulder. At least we won, right? Sakura and Sasuke helped tie up the last conscious cultists. Sasuke's face was stony. He'd seen Naruto's outburst, and though he hadn't commented yet, the tension in his posture spoke volumes. He was grappling with what Naruto had displayed, how unstoppable that burst of power had been. He was also grappling with the part of himself that coveted power, that felt overshadowed. But for now, duty took precedence over personal rivalries. Aftermath. Temporary campsite. Night wore on, and the allied shinobi set up a makeshift camp near the ravine. Fires crackled, providing warmth and light. The cultists who'd survived were heavily restrained and under guard, awaiting interrogation. Med Nin among the Jonin provided basic healing for minor injuries. Naruto sat on a flat rock some distance from the main gathering, attempting to calm his swirling thoughts. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw glimpses of that fortress, that doppelganger. It left him feeling shaky, on the edge of something he couldn't fully articulate. He sensed someone approaching and glanced up to see Ino. She sat next to him without a word, offering a steaming cup of tea. Figured you could use this. He took it gratefully, murmuring thanks. For a few moments, they sipped in companionable silence, the quiet night punctuated by distant murmurs of the other shinobi. Eventually, Ino spoke softly. You know, you don't have to pretend everything's fine. Naruto let out a weary chuckle. Yeah, well, sometimes it's easier to pretend. She nudged him gently with her shoulder. You saved a lot of people today, your friends, the village, maybe even those misguided cultists from that temple collapse. You did good, Naruto. He watched the firelight dance in her eyes. I guess. Still, it's not over. Even if we took out one stronghold, there might be more. They talked about forcibly awakening me, about some bigger plan. And he trailed off, not sure how to express the terror of that forced vision. The sense that part of him belonged in that hellish realm of spires and fortresses. Ino set her cup aside and rested a hand on his knee. Look, I don't know the details of your demon side, or how old this prophecy might be, but I do know you. You're the knuckle-headed ninja who never gives up, who protects his friends without fail. No matter what twisted destiny says, I believe in you. He swallowed, emotion twinging in his throat. Their gazes locked, and he felt an urge to close that small distance between them. He leaned in, pressing his forehead against hers in a gentle, almost tender gesture. She didn't pull away, eyes fluttering shut. It wasn't the fiery kiss of before, but something softer, laced with understanding. A discreet cough broke the moment. Naruto and Ino turned to see Sakura hovering a few feet away, looking hesitant. Hey, she said softly. Just wanted to check on you too. She paused, noticing their closeness, and a fleeting hint of something jealousy. Confusion passed over her features, but she pushed it aside. Kakashi-sensei wants to debrief us on tomorrow's plan. Ino cleared her throat, pulling back. Right, I'll go help with the watch rotation anyway. She gave Naruto a small smile and stood. As she passed Sakura, their eyes met, a silent exchange of tension and mutual concern about Naruto. Then Ino disappeared into the darkness. Sakura approached, taking Ino's vacated spot on the rock. She fiddled with the edge of her gloves. You sure you're okay? That temple scene, we were all really worried. Naruto took a slow breath. I'll manage. Just these visions, the stuff they tried to force in my head, I can't shake it. She slid a comforting hand along his shoulder. We'll figure it out. Kakashi-sensei, the Hokage, everyone. You're not alone in this. He nodded, exhaustion weighing on him. The day's battles and the mental strain left him drained. He was grateful for her presence, for that gentle warmth in her voice. And though the tension with Ino earlier flickered in his mind, he felt only relief that Sakura was here too, caring in her own way. Midnight camp perimeter. Later, Naruto found himself assigned to a late-night watch shift with Sasuke. The two stood apart from the main group, scanning the dark ravine for any signs of remaining cult threats. A cold wind whistled through the rocks. For a long stretch, neither spoke. Then Sasuke broke the silence. That power you showed, was it the fox? Naruto stared ahead, jaw tight. No, he knew lying would be pointless. Sasuke had seen the Kyuubi cloak before. This was different, something else, something older. Sasuke's fists clenched. The cult calls you their king, talks about ancient conquests. And you can do things now that just aren't normal. You basically took down that demon wolf single-handedly. Naruto shot him a sidelong look. So what? You jealous? Silence. Sasuke inhaled slowly, controlling whatever emotion simmered under the surface. Maybe, but I also want to know if I can count on you not to lose it if this power overtakes you. A flash of anger rose, but Naruto also heard the genuine concern hidden in Sasuke's blunt words. He softened slightly. I won't lose myself. I've come too far to turn into a mindless monster. Believe that if you want. Sasuke exhaled, gaze flicking to the stars. Just don't fall behind, he muttered. The old rivalry creeping into his tone. Yet there was a measure of relief, too, that Naruto was still Naruto. They settled into a companionable sort of silence, two teens burdened by the weight of revenge, destiny, and the monstrous legacies that haunted them. The watch continued uneventfully, the distant chirp of insects and the rustle of night wind their only company. Dawn command tent. As the sky lightened, Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, and the team leads gathered in a makeshift command area. The captured cultists would be transported back to Konoha for interrogation. A few squads would remain to scour the region for any lingering threat. Team 7, however, was to return home with the crucial information gleaned from the temple. Naruto listened with folded arms. Part of him wanted to keep hunting the cult to the ends of the earth, eradicate every last fanatic so they couldn't haunt him anymore. But he knew they needed a strategy. The forced awakening attempt in the temple wasn't random. There had to be more behind the scenes, some greater orchestrator. Kakashi's gaze swept over Team 7. You all did well. The temple is destroyed, their local base is in ruins. But it's likely not the end of this. We head back, regroup, and plan our next move. Sakura and Sasuke nodded. Naruto took one last look at the battered landscape, recalling how the temple collapsed into itself. At least we scored a victory. However small. But the cost was that glimpse of what he might truly be. Return to Konoha evening. After a grueling trek, they finally crossed the village gates. Greeted by a mix of relief and admiration from the guards. Word had spread that the mission was a success, though the details were hushed. Civilians going about their business saw the tired shinobi returning, some with bandages. All with a tired gleam of accomplishment in their eyes. Naruto trudged toward the Hokage Tower with his team, ready to deliver a formal report. His clothes were still scuffed, hair dusty. But he felt an odd calm. Maybe even a quiet sense of pride. He'd faced the cult head-on, refused to be their puppet. And he'd proven he could still choose who he wanted to be. They parted ways outside the tower. Kakashi went ahead to speak with the Hokage. Sasuke, muttering about training, disappeared in another direction. Sakura hovered uncertainly, then gently reminded Naruto to rest before tomorrow's debrief. He gave her a weary grin and a short wave. Once alone, Naruto headed toward his apartment. The familiar streets and lantern-lit shops reassured him. He caught glimpses of normal, everyday life, people laughing, kids running around. It was the opposite of that bleak fortress in his visions. This was the reality he wanted to protect. Naruto's apartment emotional crash. He unlocked his door and stepped into the dim interior, flicking on a light. The place was just as messy as he'd left it. For a moment, he stood there, letting the silence surround him. The adrenaline of the mission had kept him going. But now the weight of the forced vision, the battles, and the demon voice pressed hard on his mind. He tossed aside his pack, shrugged off his jacket, and sank onto the couch. Closing his eyes, he tried to breathe slowly. His thoughts spiraled. That fortress, the legion of monsters bowing, his older self's terrifying calm, the cult leader's final words, "We shall force the memory upon you." A trembling took hold of him. For all his bravado, he was scared. Scared that the next time, he wouldn't be able to pull back from that surge of power. Scared that he might truly be that ancient tyrant. A knock came at the door. He nearly jumped, startled out of his thoughts. Warily, he opened it a crack. To his surprise, Hinata stood there, cheeks flushed, eyes filled with concern. Hinata, he managed, stepping back to let her in. It's late. Everything okay? She lowered her gaze. I heard you were back. Kurenai-sensei said the mission was rough. I wanted to check on you. Her voice wavered softly. He couldn't fight the small smile tugging his lips. You keep doing that. Checking on me, I mean. She blushed deeper but straightened her shoulders. I want to help if I can. He ushered her inside, slightly self-conscious of the mess. They ended up standing awkwardly near his table. The hush between them felt charged. He was painfully aware of the fear still roiling in him. And the gentle warmth in her eyes. Thanks, he said eventually, voice low. I'm okay. Just tired. A lot happened. She nodded, fiddling with her fingers. I heard bits and pieces. Something about a cult, and you, maybe unlocking a new power. She seemed nervous mentioning it, as if worried he'd shut down. Naruto shrugged, exhaling. They say I'm the reincarnation of some demon king. Not exactly an ego boost. Her expression flashed with sympathy. That must be overwhelming. Understatement of the century, he thought, but he found himself comforted by her presence. Without quite realizing it, he reached for her hand. Her eyes went wide, but she didn't pull away. You're not scared of me, right? He asked quietly, searching her gaze. Her grip tightened slightly. No, I mean, maybe I worry about what it's doing to you, but I'm not scared of you, Naruto-kun. Her earnest tone made his chest ache with gratitude. On impulse, he leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. She let out a tiny gasp, heart pounding so loudly he could almost feel it. For a moment, they just stood there, close and unsure, but connected by an unspoken bond of mutual care. Naruto let his forehead rest lightly against hers. Thank you, Hinata, she swallowed, cheeks red. Oh, of course. The words came out in a whisper. Guilt pricked at him. Part of him thought of Ino and that closeness they'd shared. And the complicated tension with Sakura. But right now, he pushed those thoughts aside. He needed this simple, comforting moment with Hinata, someone who had believed in him since the academy days. Eventually, she stepped back, hands clasped together. I should probably go. My father. He nodded. Yeah, go rest. We've all had a long day. At the door, she glanced over her shoulder, mustering her usual sweet smile. I'm glad you're safe. He watched her leave, heart feeling both lighter and heavier at once. The swirl of multiple affections in his life only added to his inner turmoil. Still, if the demon cult wanted to turn him into some bloodthirsty king, they'd have to go through not just him, but the bonds he shared with these people. He took solace in that. Nightfall introspection. Alone again, Naruto collapsed onto his couch, exhaustion finally claiming him. Yet before sleep overtook him, he allowed himself a small, fleeting hope. They'd struck a blow against the cult. He had friends and mentors who wouldn't abandon him, no matter how dark his past might be. Maybe there was a chance to break free from this ancient chain of destiny. As he drifted into a fitful slumber, the demon's whisper hovered at the edge of his consciousness, quieter than before but still present. Your fortress awaits. Sooner or later, the world shall kneel at our feet. Naruto's lips curled in a stubborn frown. Even in sleep. Not if I have anything to say about it. Outside, the village lights twinkled in the darkness, and the moon cast a gentle glow on rooftops and quiet streets. Somewhere beyond Konoha's borders, the remnants of the cult nursed their wounds, plotting their next move. But for now, Naruto and his allies had won a hard-fought reprieve, a chance to breathe. To prepare for whatever calamity loomed on the horizon. Chapter 4. Inches risen from oblivion. A thick hush fell over Konoha's streets as the sun dipped low, washing the village in red-orange light. People bustled about their evening routines, closing shops, chatting outside restaurants, but beneath the surface, tensions ran high. Whispers of the cult's attacks and Naruto's strange new power had circulated among the shinobi. Even the everyday citizens felt the ripple of unease. It was subtle, the way the usual laughter felt a bit forced, or how guards at the gates seemed more on edge than usual. Far from the chatter, Naruto stood on the rooftop of a small apartment complex near the academy. The wind ruffled his hair as he surveyed the village below. Somewhere in the depths of his mind, that old, bone-deep presence stirred dormant for the moment, but never fully gone. He exhaled, running a hand over his face. I'm still here, still me. The forced visions from the temple had rattled him in ways he couldn't fully describe. Even back in the safety of his home, the memory of that towering fortress and the older version of himself that beckoned lingered like a curse. A sudden flicker of movement drew his eye. He spotted Sasuke on a distant rooftop, headed toward the Hokage Tower in long, purposeful strides. Probably training again, Naruto thought with a wry twist of his lips. These days, Sasuke's schedule was as relentless as his own. Maybe he, too, had trouble sleeping, haunted by the intensifying power overshadowing their rivalry. Deciding he could no longer stand still, Naruto hopped off the ledge and dropped soundlessly into an alley. He made his way toward the tower, ignoring the curious or wary glances from a few civilians. They knew him, everyone in Konoha did, but the rumors about demon power had spread. He felt eyes lingering on him longer than usual. The usual hushed remarks about the Nine-Tails brat had changed shape into something else. Now they said, he's got some other demon inside him. Did you see what he did to those cultists? He clenched his fists. Let them talk. In the end, he had a job to do. By the time he reached the Hokage Tower courtyard, the sun had fully set. Lanterns glowed around the tall building. Two Chunin guards on duty nodded respectfully as he passed. He ascended the steps to the main entrance, stepping inside with a determined breath. The hallway leading to the Hokage's office was busier than usual. Jonin hurried in and out, carrying scrolls and urgent reports. Naruto glimpsed Kurenai conferring with Anko near a side chamber. Both looked tense. At the far end of the corridor, he recognized Asuma smoking quietly by a window, deep in thought. He was about to approach when Sakura emerged from the office, nearly colliding with him. Ah, she jumped back, then sighed in relief. Naruto, you scared me. He grinned sheepishly, but it faded quickly. What's going on? He asked. Why's everyone rushing around? She pushed a strand of pink hair behind her ear. Lord Hokage has new intel on the cult's movements. Seems like they're not as scattered as we hoped. Kakashi-sensei is inside, debriefing right now. Sasuke was already here a few minutes ago. Naruto's heartbeat quickened. So it's starting again. What did they find out? She lowered her voice. A bigger faction of the Claw of Abaddon is regrouping beyond the Land of Rivers. We don't know if they have a new stronghold, but they're definitely not done. And apparently, they've been trying to recruit or coerce rogue shinobi from smaller villages. It's bad. He nodded grimly, then motioned toward the office door. Let's see what the old man says. The office felt crowded, the smell of paperwork and pipe smoke mixing in the warm air. The third Hokage sat behind his desk, looking more serious than Naruto had ever seen him. Beside the Hokage stood Kakashi, arms folded, Sharingan eye covered by the headband as usual. Sasuke was there too, off to the side, his posture rigid. Around them, a handful of other Jonin studied a spread of maps pinned to the walls. Hiruzen Sarutobi glanced up, noticing Naruto. Good, you're here, he said, waving him in. He took a long puff from his pipe. Let's keep this short. The information we've gathered suggests that our operation in the Land of Rivers disrupted one of the cult's branches, but their leadership remains intact. Kakashi leaned forward. We're hearing rumors of a figure who leads them all, someone referred to as the High Herald. This person apparently has knowledge of advanced forbidden techniques related to demonic chakra. They may be the key to their entire structure. Sasuke cut in, voice low. If we take out the leader, the cult might collapse. Or at least they'll stop trying to forcibly awaken Naruto's memories. Naruto tried not to flinch at the mention of his memories. Instead, he stepped closer to the desk. So what's the plan, Gigi? Sarutobi exhaled a curl of smoke. We've received intelligence that a covert meeting is happening in the Land of Earth, near the old frontier. We suspect delegates of this cult plan to gather with some mercenary groups. If that's true, we can't allow them to form alliances. Kakashi tapped a finger on a small map. Konoha can't officially cross the border of the Land of Earth without risking conflict with Iwagakure. So we'll send a small, discreet team. They'll confirm the meeting, gather intel, and if possible, eliminate or capture the High Herald. Sakura's eyes went wide. We'd be going into Iowa territory, though. That's basically infiltration. Kakashi's gaze flicked from Sarutobi to Naruto. We have no choice. Waiting around will only give the cult time to grow. Besides, a smaller infiltration team stands a better chance of slipping in unseen. Sarutobi nodded, then turned to Naruto. The risk is great, especially for you. But your presence might be necessary to draw out the herald. Are you prepared for such a mission? A hush fell. Naruto's stomach churned, part fear, part determination. Yeah, he said, voice firm. I can handle it. Let's do it. Sasuke smirked faintly, not quite challenging but not entirely supportive either. Sakura swallowed, a flicker of nervousness in her eyes. She remembered all too well how dangerous the land of Earth could be, how precarious relations with Iwagakure were historically. Sarutobi eyed them all. Very well, Kakashi. Take Team 7 plus 2 additional support shinobi. I trust you know who can help you infiltrate quietly. I'd advise speed and stealth over brute force. Kakashi nodded thoughtfully. I'll make the final selection before dawn. Sasuke rubbed the back of his hand. When do we leave? Sarutobi's gaze swept the room. Daybreak. Dismissed. And be cautious. Outside in the corridor, Team 7 regrouped. The crowd of Jonin had dispersed, leaving only a handful of shinobi discussing the upcoming plan in hushed tones. Kakashi turned to Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, lowering his voice. We'll need to move quickly. Go home, pack light, and rest if you can. I'll meet you at the front gate at sunrise. I'll also bring in 2 others. I'm leaning toward selecting Shikamaru for strategy. And Neji for Byakugan support. But I have to confirm with their sensei. They nodded in agreement. Neji's 360 vision plus Shikamaru's intellect would bolster their infiltration significantly. Kakashi parted with a casual wave, likely heading off to do last-minute prep. Sakura took a step after him. I'll go get some rest, too, she murmured, but her shoulders were tense. She looked at Naruto and Sasuke. Concern etched on her face. This mission, if we're discovered by Iwa shinobi. Naruto forced a grin, more to reassure her than out of genuine confidence. We'll handle it. Sasuke, silent, flicked his gaze to Naruto. Then nodded to Sakura. See you both at dawn. As they departed, Naruto felt a heavy knot in his stomach. Another mission, another infiltration behind enemy lines, only this time. If they triggered an international incident, it could spell war. And if the cult cornered him again, would he be forced to draw on that terrifying power? Late evening streets of Konoha. Feeling restless, Naruto wandered through the lamplit streets, mind buzzing. If they were leaving at dawn, he should be sleeping, but the tension kept him wide awake. He ended up by the closed lower shop belonging to the Yamanaka clan. Light shone inside, though the sign read, closed. Ino's silhouette moved behind the glass. She must have been tending to last-minute chores. Naruto hesitated, then tapped the door lightly. Through the glass, he saw her glance up, blinking in surprise. She unlocked the door and let him in. Late night visit, huh? Ino asked, arching a brow. She wore casual clothes, a few petals stuck in her hair. Didn't think you were the flower shopping type. He scratched the back of his neck. Sorry, I'm heading out on a mission at dawn. Wanted to clear my head first. She set aside a watering can and folded her arms, expression softening with worry. Another big one. Yeah, we have to track down more cult members across the border. Ino studied his face carefully. And you're worried about this demon stuff flaring up again? She sighed at his silence. Look, I get it. You don't want to keep talking about it. But you know you can trust me, right? Naruto nodded, eyes flicking to the tidy rows of flowers arranged on the counters. The shop smelled faintly of lavender and fresh soil. I appreciate it. Sorry if I keep dumping my problems on you. She rolled her eyes a bit. Would you quit apologizing? Honestly, it's nice to have you come to me. Then her voice lowered. Just don't go disappearing without coming back, okay? He felt an unexpected wave of warmth. Yeah, promise. They stood there in the dimly lit shop, the silence not exactly awkward but laden with unspoken feelings. Ino was the first to move, stepping closer, hooking a finger into the collar of his jacket. He sensed the question in her eyes. Are we doing this? He answered by leaning in, capturing her lips in a slow, heated kiss. The day's anxieties melted for a moment. As he lost himself in the softness of her mouth, the faint taste of mint from her breath. She pressed closer, letting out a quiet hum of relief. In that instant, they were just two teenagers ignoring the looming threat of cults and demon kings. After a few intense seconds, they broke apart, breathing heavily. Ino's cheeks glowed pink. Okay, that was probably what we both needed, she whispered, eyes bright. Naruto managed a grin, his pulse still racing. Guess so. Then he sobered. I should let you close up. I gotta go pack anyway. She gave a teasing pout. Fine, but you'd better come back. In one piece, no demon meltdown or anything. He laughed softly, though the reminder still stung. I'll do my best. They shared a final look, a silent promise passing between them. Naruto slipped back out into the night, heart thumping with conflicting emotions. The cult and its horrors loomed, but in small moments like this he remembered why he fought so hard to hold on to his humanity. Before dawn village gates. When Naruto arrived at the gates, the sky was still a deep blue-gray, stars barely visible through the faint haze of early morning. Kakashi waited, half asleep as usual, but perked up upon Naruto's approach. Sasuke leaned against the wall, arms crossed, and Sakura yawned while checking her pack straps. To Naruto's mild surprise, Neji Hyuga and Shikamaru Nara were already there too. Neji gave Naruto a curt nod. Shikamaru, looking as if he'd rather still be in bed, managed a lazy salute. Good, we're all here, Kakashi said, eyes smiling. The infiltration team is complete. Let's do a quick rundown of the plan as we move. They set out immediately, the guards offering them a quiet send-off. The land of Earth was a long journey, well beyond the mountains north of the Fire Country. This mission would be delicate and dangerous. Shikamaru rubbed the back of his head, stifling a yawn. Troublesome, but at least we have time to strategize on the way. Sakura nodded. We'll need your brains. None of us want to risk a direct confrontation with Iwa. Neji's pale eyes scanned the road ahead. If any watchers approach within several hundred meters, I'll see them coming. Naruto exhaled, trying to focus on the conversation rather than the old dread coiling in his chest. No meltdown. Keep it together. Midday Mountain Pass. The group made steady progress, crossing the familiar roads into the lesser-traveled foothills that bordered the land of Earth. The terrain grew increasingly rugged, with steep rocky trails and a thinner canopy of trees. Hot, arid wind scoured their faces. By noon, the team paused in the shade of a stone outcrop, sipping water and discussing the next leg of the trip. Shikamaru traced a route on a rough map, using a stick in the dirt. We should avoid the main passes used by traders. Too many eyes there. If we swing west, there's a narrow ravine that leads to a plateau. It's less traveled, but also more dangerous if we run into bandits or cult scouts. Sasuke crouched beside him, eyes narrowed. A risk we'll have to take. The main roads are definitely patrolled by Iwa forces. Kakashi nodded, looking at the makeshift diagram. All right, we'll follow this route. Let's keep chatter to a minimum, no telling who might be listening. Naruto's stomach grumbled, and he rummaged for a protein bar in his pouch. The midday sun bore down, but heat tension among them was chillier than the wind. Each step took them closer to a territory where they'd have no official support from Konoha if things went south. As they geared up to move again, Neji subtly caught Naruto's eye. By the way, Neji said quietly, if you sense anything strange with your chakra, let us know. We can't afford unexpected outbursts in foreign territory. Naruto stiffened. Everyone's on edge about me. I got it, he replied curtly. Neji nodded once, not unkindly, but clearly worried. With that, they set off again, weaving deeper into rocky terrain. Nightfall hidden plateau camp. By the time the sun set behind jagged peaks, they'd reached a secluded plateau shielded by tall stone spires. It took a bit of climbing, but they managed to find a level area suitable for setting up a minimal camp. No fire. Minimal light, so as not to attract attention. After establishing a perimeter of tripwire traps, the group settled in a small circle. Sakura shared the meager dinner rations, dried fish, rice balls, and water from a canteen. The mood was hushed, save for occasional conversation about watch rotations. Naruto ate quietly, lost in thought. His eyes drifted to Sasuke, who was sharpening a kunai by moonlight. Farther off, Shikamaru fiddled with a pair of dice, likely thinking up strategies. Sakura busied herself sorting medical supplies, while Neji removed his forehead protector for a brief moment, letting the breeze cool his face. Kakashi, as usual, pretended to read his orange book but was undoubtedly hyper-aware of everything around them. After the meal, the group dispersed. Naruto volunteered for second watch alongside Sakura. He felt too restless to sleep much. As he walked away from the main group to pick a vantage point, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to find Sasuke approaching, kunai holstered. The Uchiha's expression was neutral. Naruto. Yeah, Naruto replied, scanning the darkness. Sasuke paused, as if choosing his words carefully. About the temple, and that power you showed. That was real demonic chakra, right? Not the fox. Something else. Naruto let out a slow breath. Yep. Sasuke's gaze flicked to the horizon, where jagged silhouettes of mountain peaks cut into the sky. It's strong, overwhelming, even, but you're still controlling it, somehow. Naruto hesitated, recalling the near loss of control in that subterranean chamber. Not always, he admitted. Back there, it felt like I was on the edge. One slip, and I might have hurt everyone. Sasuke's expression tightened. He nodded, stepping closer so that their conversation stayed private. Just so you know, if it comes down to it, I won't let you run wild. I don't want to see you become some monster. Naruto tensed, part of him annoyed. Oh, and how do you plan to stop me if that happens? A small, humorless smirk tugged at Sasuke's lips. I don't know, but I'll figure something out. The remark was as close to a sign of brotherly concern as Sasuke could manage. Then he sighed. Anyway, keep your head clear. We're in enemy territory, and if they sense that insane chakra. Naruto nodded slowly, meeting Sasuke's gaze. Right. Don't worry, I'm not about to let them use me or push me over the edge. Satisfied for the moment, Sasuke gave him a curt nod and walked back toward the makeshift sleeping area. Naruto stood there under the cold moon, exhaling a white plume of breath in the crisp mountain air. The conversation left a strange taste in his mouth, part relief that Sasuke still cared enough to warn him, part frustration that he needed this warning at all. Hours later, Naruto and Sakura on watch. The night grew cold, wind whistling softly against the stone spires. Naruto crouched behind a rock, scanning the plateau's edge through a pair of basic binoculars. Beside him, Sakura moved quietly, checking tripwires and staying alert. He handed her the binoculars. You see anything? She shook her head. No, just rocks and shadows. Still, she raised the binoculars to confirm. After a moment, she lowered them, exhaling. It's too quiet, though. Naruto could only agree. He watched her face, illuminated by faint moonlight. You okay? He asked softly. You've been pretty tense since we left. She let out a humorless chuckle. Who wouldn't be tense? We're deep in hostile territory, and you're carrying that load on your shoulders. Sorry, he muttered reflexively. He hated how his issues had become everyone's burden. She frowned, shaking her head. Don't apologize. It's not like you asked for that power. I worry about you. And Sasuke, too. He's so focused on strength, and now you've basically jumped ahead in raw power. I don't want either of you to lose yourselves. Naruto studied her eyes, seeing genuine care there. Without overthinking, he reached out, resting a hand lightly on her shoulder. We'll be fine. We have you, after all. Her cheeks tinted pink, but she didn't move away. For a long moment, they just shared the hush of the night. Then she smiled, a soft, genuine curve of her lips. You're still the same goofball I remember. Demon King or not. A bubble of warmth filled his chest. She teased him, but affection lay beneath the words. Before he could reply, a flicker of movement at the edge of his peripheral vision made him snap to attention. His senses prickled. He gestured for her to duck down. They crouched behind a rock, scanning the darkness again. This time, Sakura saw it too, a faint silhouette, perhaps 100 meters away, creeping along a narrow ledge. Moonlight glinted on something metallic. Naruto's pulse quickened. Could be a stray bandit, or an Iowa scout, or worse, one of the cult's infiltration agents. He glanced at Sakura, who nodded. She quietly reached for a small signaling mirror, reflecting a few quick flashes of moonlight toward Kakashi. Their sensei, presumably half asleep near the camp, would notice the coded signal. Within moments, Kakashi and Neji emerged from the shadows, arriving silently. Shikamaru and Sasuke followed close behind, all of them on high alert. Neji activated his Byakugan, scanning the distance. There are 3 people, all armed. No signs of the cult's distinctive robes. But they're definitely moving like shinobi. Kakashi's jaw set. Can you see headbands? Are they Iwa Nin? Neji squinted, then his brow furrowed. They're not wearing any typical forehead protectors. More like mercenaries. Possibly rogue ninja from smaller villages. Shikamaru groaned softly. Great. Just what we need. Kakashi motioned for them to stay low. We can't afford a confrontation if it'll blow our cover. Let's see if they're passing through or if they're after us. Neji kept watch as the 3 figures crept along a natural path that led dangerously close to the plateau. The group tensed, controlling their breath. If these unknowns got too near, a fight was unavoidable. The silhouettes drew closer. Now, Naruto could make out the faint outline of short swords on their backs. He willed his heart to slow. One misstep, and the entire infiltration mission could be compromised. Suddenly, one of the mercenaries paused, scanning the plateau. In the hush of the night, Naruto heard a faint voice echo off the rock walls. Should we camp here? We've got a ways to go before meeting the Herald tomorrow. Naruto froze. The Herald. They know about the cult's High Herald. Kakashi's eye narrowed. He turned to the others, lips moving in a silent command. Wait. The mercenaries had just confirmed they were traveling to meet the cult. This might be a crucial lead. The second mercenary shrugged, voice gruff. Might as well. The High Herald said to gather near the stone labyrinth by tomorrow night. We can make the final leg in daylight. The third figure exhaled an annoyed grunt. Fine, let's find a vantage point. These mountains are crawling with shinobi these days. Don't want any trouble. They continued forward, stepping onto the plateau, maybe a dozen meters from the tripwires. Naruto and the others crouched deeper in the shadows, tension coiling. If the mercenaries triggered a trap, all stealth was lost. But letting them roam freely would risk detection. Kakashi weighed the odds swiftly, then signaled a swift takedown. They couldn't pass up the chance to question these mercenaries about the High Herald's location. Neji nodded. Sasuke's Sharingan flickered to life. Shikamaru quietly formed a half-seal, preparing to cast a shadow jutsu. Naruto steadied his breath, ignoring the prickle of demonic energy that seemed to stir whenever danger was near. Kakashi was the first to move, disappearing in a silent blur. He appeared behind the rear mercenary, delivering a precise chop to the neck. The man crumpled without a sound. At the same instant, Sasuke dashed forward and snagged the second mercenary's sword arm, twisting it behind his back in a single fluid motion. The mercenary hissed in pain. The third spun around, but Shikamaru's shadow had already extended, ensnaring him. "Tch, so troublesome," Shikamaru muttered, locking eyes with his captive. The entire ambush took only seconds. The captured mercenaries barely had time to cry out, their voices muffled by expertly applied grapples. Sakura and Naruto dashed in, helping secure them with minimal scuffle. Soon, 2 unconscious or immobilized mercenaries lay in the dust, while the third glared defiantly. Pinned by Sasuke's hold, Kakashi nodded in satisfaction. Nice job. Let's drag them off the plateau. We can't risk them screaming here and drawing attention. Shikamaru, do you have a plan for interrogation? The Nara genius sighed. We'll tie them up, blindfold them, and find a quiet spot in that rocky alcove. We'd better move fast, though, before sunrise. Naruto and Sakura exchanged a glance, then helped bind the mercenaries, hands and feet with ninja wire. Carefully, they relocated to a small hollow behind a tall boulder. Darkness blanketed the scene, broken only by faint moonlight. The rest of the team formed a tight perimeter, ears pricked for any sign of oncoming patrols. Neji knelt next to the first conscious mercenary, checking him for hidden weapons. All clear. He's definitely a rogue ninja from the looks of these pouches. Sasuke kept a blade near the man's throat. Tell us about your meeting with the High Herald. Where is it supposed to happen? The captive spat on the ground. Why should I say anything to you? Sasuke's glare was icy. Because I'll make you talk if you don't. Kakashi placed a hand on Sasuke's shoulder, urging restraint. He turned to Shikamaru. Your show. Shikamaru knelt, adopting an almost bored tone. Let me guess. You signed on for easy money, or maybe you believe in this demon cult. Either way, it doesn't matter to us. We only need the location. If you tell us quickly, we'll spare you some pain. If not, well, he shrugged pointedly. The man's defiant stare wavered. Sakura noticed his sweat beating in the cold air. It's not about belief, he muttered eventually. The cult pays well. They said they have a new power source, something that'll tip the balance of the shinobi world. Naruto's stomach twisted. They mean me, or that demon realm. He fought down a surge of anger. Shikamaru kept his voice calm. So where is this meeting? The mercenary hesitated, glancing toward his unconscious companions. There's a place called the Stone Labyrinth. About half a day's travel from here. An ancient canyon with weird rock formations easy to hide in. The High Herald is gathering various merc groups at a hidden shrine on the canyon floor. Kakashi exchanged a glance with Neji. That lines up with rumors we've heard. The captive scowled. They told us to be there by tomorrow night. Something about a grand ritual. Didn't ask for details. Just doing my job. Sasuke tightened his grip. A ritual. The mercenary shrugged, forced into an awkward angle by Sasuke's hold. That's what they said. Some big demonstration of power, I guess. The herald keeps raving about summoning the rightful king, forging alliances. Sounded like a bunch of nonsense, but the money was good. Naruto inhaled, a chill creeping through his veins. Another ritual. He remembered all too well the pain of that forced memory at the temple. Did the cult plan something bigger this time? Shikamaru glanced at Kakashi. We have enough info. Let's silence them, bind them, and leave them for a pickup by Konoha trackers. We can't drag them along on an infiltration. Kakashi agreed. They quickly gagged the mercenaries and left them stashed in a narrow crevice, well out of sight. Then the team retreated to the plateau camp, hearts pounding with new urgency. Dawn breaking camp. No one got much sleep the rest of the night. Once the tea-gray light of morning touched the rock walls, Kakashi gathered everyone. So, the Stone Labyrinth is half a day away. The cult meets tomorrow night. We have some time, but we'll need to find vantage points and a way to get inside. If the High Herald truly intends a large-scale ritual, they'll have the area guarded. Sakura frowned, packing her gear. And if they sense Naruto near, they might accelerate their plans. Neji crossed his arms. We'll need to hide Naruto's chakra signature somehow. Perhaps a specialized seal or a technique to cloak him. Kakashi glanced at Naruto. We could attempt to suppress your chakra partially. But there's no guarantee it'll fool these cultists. Especially if they rely on more archaic demonic sensing. Naruto grimaced. I can try to keep a lid on my power. That's the best I can do. Shikamaru rubbed his temple, thinking. All right, here's a plan. We'll approach the labyrinth from the east, where the canyons are less traveled. Neji can scout from above, figure out guard placements. Naruto, you should stay back until we confirm an infiltration route. If the cult detects you from miles away, we lose the advantage of surprise. Sasuke nodded curtly. I can help draw out any sentries with illusions or quick strikes. Once the herald is in sight, we figure out a way to get close enough to either capture or eliminate them. Kakashi surveyed the group. We have no idea how many mercenaries or rogue shinobi might be present. But this is our best shot at crippling the cult. Let's move. With a final check of their gear, they set off again, deeper into the land of Earth's stony wilderness. Afternoon approaching the Stone Labyrinth. The terrain turned harsh and uneven. Great pillars of stone rose from the canyon floor, riddled with narrow pathways and precarious ledges. Heat radiated off the rocks, creating wavy distortions in the distance. Even the air tasted of dust. From a small outcropping, Neji scouted the route. His Byakugan flared, veins bulging around his temples. I see multiple camps scattered throughout the canyon. Some are definitely mercenaries. Their gear is mismatched, but they're well armed. Kakashi knelt next to him. Any sign of the cult's main group? Neji angled his head. Yes, there's a large, carved archway at the canyon's center. I see robed figures milling about, setting up what looks like a large brazier or altar. That must be the shrine. Shikamaru cursed under his breath. We'll never get close without being spotted. Too many vantage points from the higher rocks. They'll see us coming. Sakura appeared over the edge. Is there a path from beneath? Maybe. A network of tunnels or passages we can use. Neji scanned more carefully. Yes, there's a network of smaller caverns near the canyon floor. Could be a route in if we're careful. But it might also be guarded. Kakashi's gaze settled on Naruto, who stood slightly apart from the group, fists clenched. Naruto, you'll remain here with me for the initial infiltration. Sasuke, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Neji will scout the tunnels. Once they confirm a path, we'll bring you in. Naruto's jaw tightened. He hated hanging back while his friends risked themselves. But he understood the logic. If he charged in and got discovered, the entire canyon might erupt in chaos, especially if the cult recognized his chakra. Fine, he muttered, but don't take too long. Sakura shot him a reassuring look. We'll be quick. Just keep that power under control until we need it. He gave a stiff nod, glancing to Sasuke. The Uchiha turned without a word, leading the scouting team down a winding path. Watching them go, Naruto felt a twinge of anxiety. The memory of the forced vision at the temple weighed heavily on him. What if the cult had something even worse planned? Kakashi laid a hand on Naruto's shoulder. We'll get through this, he said softly. Trust your team. Naruto exhaled slowly, forcing himself to relax. I have to trust them. But the demon presence inside him churned. It wanted to be let loose, to stride into the canyon and claim dominion. He grit his teeth, vowing not to give in. Underground tunnels paused. Shift to Sakura. Sakura led the way, a small glow stick in hand to provide just enough light without giving them away. The tunnels were cramped, lined with jagged rock, and the air smelled faintly of damp earth. Sasuke followed closely, Sharingan active to spot hidden traps. Shikamaru and Neji brought up the rear, silent but alert. They moved cautiously, occasionally pausing while Neji swept his Byakugan through the walls, searching for enemy patrols in adjacent corridors. At one point, he signaled them to stop and flatten against the wall. Two robed figures passed by in a parallel tunnel, their voices echoing lightly. The herald said the ritual starts at sundown. We must be ready. The king's presence is near, I can feel it. Sakura felt a chill. They were talking about Naruto again. Even separated by tunnels and stone, the cult's obsession persisted. She cast a worried glance at Sasuke, who scowled. Once the robed figures moved on, the team continued deeper. Shikamaru whispered, we're close to the central area. If we can find an exit that leads right beneath the shrine, we might catch them off guard. Sasuke nodded. We should also locate any vantage points for Kakashi and Naruto to approach without detection. They pressed on until the tunnel opened into a small chamber. A dim, natural shaft of light filtered through from above, presumably from a crack in the canyon floor. Neji looked up, Byakugan focusing. We're directly under the shrine. I see robed figures assembling overhead. No heavy guard in this specific spot, but to the east, I sense multiple chakra signatures, probably mercenaries waiting in the wings. Sakura's heart pounded. They'd found the perfect infiltration route, or an ambush site. We should mark this location and go back. Sasuke agreed. Yeah, the longer we stay, the higher the chance we're caught. Let's hurry. They turned to retrace their steps when a soft flicker of chakra brushed Sakura's senses. She grabbed Sasuke's arm, face blanching. There's someone here. Before they could react, a swirl of blackish-green flame materialized on the far side of the chamber. A tall, hooded figure stepped out, a woman with pale skin and haunting eyes. Her robes bore intricate symbols. She lifted a hand, ghostly fire dancing around her fingertips. Spies, she said coldly. You reek of the leaf, and the king's essence clings to you. Neji darted forward, aiming a gentle fist strike. The robed woman twisted aside with fluid grace, conjuring a swirl of flame that forced him to back off. Sasuke followed up with a volley of shuriken, which she batted away with an eerie, flame-wreathed staff that appeared in her hand. Shikamaru tried to cast his shadow jutsu, but the flickering fire made the shadows unstable. Damn it, he muttered. The woman bared her teeth in a sneer. So you think you can thwart the herald's plan? I'll deliver your heads as an offering. Sakura's pulse thundered. We can't risk a big fight here. But the cultist moved too fast, brandishing her staff in sweeping arcs that cast waves of scorching heat. The four Konoha shinobi scattered, dodging or blocking. Sparks rained down on the rocky floor. Sasuke's eyes blazed crimson. He lunged in with a chidori, lightning crackling across his arm. The staff blocked it, but cracks formed on the weapon. The woman hissed, stumbling back. Sakura took the opening, rushing in with a chakra-enhanced punch aimed at the cultist's torso. A wall of flame erupted, forcing Sakura to shield her face. The heat singed her hair, but she pressed forward, swiping at the robed woman's midsection. The staff snapped in two the combined assault of lightning and raw strength. A burst of blackish flame shot out in a final blast, throwing them all backward. Neji coughed, eyes stinging from the smoke. When he managed to refocus, he saw the woman staggering. Her staff broken, blood trickling from a cut on her arm. She glared at them with fanatic rage. "You have no idea the wrath you invite," she snarled. Then she began forming a rapid sequence of hand seals, chanting a short incantation in that strange demonic language. A swirling portal of shadowy chakra opened behind her, small and unstable. She cast a murderous look at the Konoha team, then dove backward into the portal. With a pop of displaced air, it sealed behind her, leaving only wisps of black smoke. Sasuke cursed under his breath. She escaped. Sakura caught her breath, relieved the fight was brief yet worried about the possibility of reinforcements. Shikamaru frowned deeply. "She'll warn the cult we're here." Neji scanned the chamber with Byakugan. "I don't see any additional movement headed our way yet. But we need to go, now." Sasuke and Sakura nodded. The group hurried back along the tunnels, hearts pounding. So much for subtlety. If the cult knew they were here, the infiltration had just gotten a lot harder. Return to Naruto and Kakashi. When they emerged from the hidden passage and reached the plateau's edge, they found Naruto pacing anxiously, Kakashi on alert. The moment Naruto spotted them, he rushed over. "What happened?" "We sensed a surge of chakra." Shikamaru explained quickly. "We found a route beneath the shrine, but we ran into a high-ranking cultist. She escaped." Kakashi's expression turned grim. "That means they know we're here." Sasuke wiped sweat from his brow. "Yeah, they're probably tightening security around the shrine. But we also confirmed there's going to be a major ritual by tomorrow night." Naruto clenched his jaw. "So we still have time to stop it." Shikamaru nodded, though he looked weary. "Right, if we can figure out how. The canyons are crawling with mercs, and now they're on alert." Neji folded his arms. "At least we have the route. If we strike fast tonight, we might catch them before they fully muster. Or we wait until just before the ritual. Either option is risky." Kakashi considered. A preemptive strike could cause them to scatter, maybe making it impossible to pinpoint the herald. But waiting until the ritual starts might be worse. They could try to forcibly awaken Naruto's power or do something on a massive scale. A tense hush followed. Naruto finally spoke, voice trembling with an undercurrent of frustration. "Let's wait. If we can identify the herald during the ritual, we can take them out for good. That's the best chance to end this madness, right?" Sasuke's eyes flicked to him. "And if they drag you into the ritual?" Naruto's glare was fierce. "Then you stop them. We're shinobi, and we've never backed down from bigger threats. We end this cult once and for all." Kakashi sighed, running a hand through his silver hair. "It's dangerous. But the logic is sound. We aim for the maximum impact. If we remove their leader in front of all the mercenaries, the entire alliance could crumble." Shikamaru pursed his lips. "Troublesome, but I see no better plan." So it was decided. They'd lay low until the ritual began the following evening, then infiltrate the shrine from below, strike swiftly, and ensure the cult couldn't complete their twisted ceremony or capture Naruto. Later that night, temporary hideout. They found a secluded nook at the canyon's edge, partially hidden behind a ridge. Setting no fire, they huddled together, sharing quiet conversation as they awaited dusk the next day. Everyone tried to rest in shifts, though few managed any real sleep. Naruto lay on his back, staring up at the star-streaked sky. The close calls of the day rattled him, not to mention the knowledge that an even bigger confrontation loomed. Restless images flooded his mind. A black throne, a swirling red sky. Cultists chanting his name. He pressed a hand to his forehead, inhaling deeply. "Stay grounded." He sensed movement to his left and turned to see Sakura settling beside him. She offered him a small water canteen. "You look like you're about to burst." He took a grateful sip. "Feels like it. All this waiting. Sucks. She nodded, hugging her knees. We'll get through it. We've done so much already. Right. He mustered a little smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. Right. After a moment, she spoke hesitantly. Before, you were with me on watch, we talked about not losing ourselves. Tomorrow, you might be in the center of their ritual. If anything happens, if you feel like you're slipping, trust us to pull you back, okay? He exhaled shakily. Yeah, I'll try. Her hand found his, fingers lacing briefly before she released him. He felt a wave of appreciation for her support, a quiet thread of warmth threading through the anxiety in his chest. Not far away, Sasuke observed them with an inscrutable expression, arms folded. Next to him, Shikamaru lay back, eyes shut as if dozing, though Naruto suspected he was still half awake. Neji perched on a boulder, Byakugan scanning the darkness. Kakashi, perched somewhere above on a rock ledge, kept silent vigil. In a few hours, everything would change. Approach to the shrine sunset the next day. At last, the time arrived. The sun sank below the canyon walls, painting the sky a blood-red hue that seemed too on the nose for Naruto's liking. From their vantage point in the tunnels below the shrine, they heard distant chanting and drums echoing through the rock. Torchlight danced on the ceiling above. They advanced in two groups. Shikamaru, Neji, and Sakura would circle the perimeter, quietly neutralizing any guards. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto would enter from the central chamber to locate the High Herald. The plan hinged on speed and surprise. Naruto swallowed hard as they navigated the dark corridors. An oppressive heaviness pressed down on him, a sense of ancient malevolence that made the fine hairs on his neck stand up. Each step took him closer to the epicenter of the cult's twisted devotion. When they reached the final junction, Kakashi gave a silent signal. Shikamaru, Sakura, and Neji split off, disappearing into an adjacent tunnel. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto pressed on. The chanting grew louder, interspersed with rumbles of energy that set Naruto's teeth on edge. They emerged at the edge of a wide chamber under open sky. The canyon walls soared around them, torches jutting from the rock. A massive stone altar rose in the center, ringed by robed figures. Atop the altar, a towering brazier spat greenish fire. The robed cultists chanted in harsh unison, their voices echoing off the canyon walls. Abaddon, reclaimer of the fallen, may the king's blood be spilt, may the ancient throne rise once more. Naruto's heart pounded. Dozens of mercenaries stood guard around the altar, armed with swords, spears, and crossbows. High above, on the canyon ledges, more watchers. It felt like stepping into the lair of an army. And at the altar's apex, a figure draped in orn. 8 robes of black and crimson, clearly the High Herald. Their face was obscured by a horned mask carved with bizarre runes. Even from a distance, Naruto sensed an immense chakra emanating from them, dark, insidious, powerful. The herald raised both arms, chanting a phrase in demonic tongues. The air crackled, thick with foul energy. Naruto clenched his fists, the voice in his head thrashing. This is it. The herald was the one orchestrating everything. Kakashi whispered, we need to strike soon, but carefully. Sasuke, can you create a distraction on that side? I'll take the other. Naruto, stay low until we weaken their defenses. Naruto wanted to argue, but he bit it back. The plan made sense. If he charged in alone, they might capture him for the ritual. The success of the mission depended on teamwork. Sasuke's Sharingan glowed. On it, he vanished, weaving around boulders to flank the guards. Kakashi slid to the opposite side, carefully pulling out 2 scrolls. Naruto crouched behind a jagged stone, eyes locked on the herald. The cult's chanting intensified. Green flames leapt from the brazier, forming shapes in the air, half-real illusions of demonic beasts that flickered and hissed. Suddenly, a chorus of startled cries sounded from the far edge of the shrine. Sasuke had begun his assault, unleashing a flurry of fire jutsu that sent mercenaries scattering. Almost simultaneously, Kakashi set off a well-placed explosive tag behind another group of guards, sowing confusion. The herald spun around, voice echoing with unnatural reverberation. Intruders, the leaf seeks to deny our ascension. Chaos erupted. Robed figures scrambled. Mercenaries dashed to intercept Sasuke and Kakashi. In that same moment, Shikamaru's shadow pinned 2 guards on a ledge, letting Sakura leap up and deliver swift knockout blows. Neji engaged a group of swordsmen near the entrance, deflecting their strikes with graceful precision. Naruto took his cue, vaulting over the boulder. With a burst of chakra, he landed in the central clearing, where the herald stood with staff raised. The masked leader's voice boomed. "So, the king arrives at last." Naruto braced himself, fury boiling in his chest. "Stop calling me that," he growled. "I'm ending this right here." The herald lifted a gloved hand. Dark energy converged around it like a writhing mass of snakes. "You cannot end what has lasted centuries. The demon realm yearns for your return. And I, the herald, shall guide you to your rightful throne." Naruto felt an invisible force tug at him, something akin to the ritual binding from the temple. But this time he was ready. He roared, flaring his own chakra to repel the intrusion. The ground cracked beneath his feet, green flame colliding with his swirling red-gold aura. Around them, the battle raged. Sasuke clashed with a wave of mercenaries, carving a path toward the altar. Kakashi blurred through the crowd, neutralizing cultists with precise strikes. Shikamaru's strategic traps and Neji's Byakugan coordination pinned down entire clusters of enemies, while Sakura's blows shattered stone pillars and knocked out robed fanatics. The herald hissed, staff pointed at Naruto. "Such fiancé, yet I sense the old blood pulsing in your veins. Accept your place, King Abaddon." Naruto's vision flashed with images of that fortress again, the armies kneeling. He clenched his teeth until they felt like they'd crack. "I'm not your king." He lunged, crossing the final yards in a blink, fist drawn back. Chakra swirled around his arm, tinted with that unsettling black edge of demonic power. Their blows collided. For an instant, Naruto felt an immense surge of force like two raging storms colliding head-on. The shockwave rippled through the altar, toppling lesser cultists. The brazier's flames sputtered, flickering ominously. The herald slid backward, staff bent from the impact. "Impressive," they murmured, voice laced with something akin to admiration. "But you cannot deny the truth. Observe." They slammed a palm on the stone altar, chanting an incantation. The entire shrine lit up with sigils that glowed a sickly green. The wind whipped around them, forming a vortex of swirling dust and malignant chakra. Naruto sensed that this was a large-scale summoning or transformation. He tried to disrupt it, but the herald rose into the air, buoyed by swirling energy. Behold the threshold to the demon realm. In the swirling maelstrom, shapes began to materialize, spectral monsters not unlike the skeletal wolf Naruto had fought, only larger and more numerous. They crawled from the portal in the sky, howling with unearthly voices. The cultists cheered, renewed in their fervor. On the perimeter, Sakura gaped. "We have to shut that portal down." Shikamaru grimaced. Working on it, he formed a shadow weave that latched onto one of the monstrous shapes, trying to yank it back. But the creatures continued spilling through, threatening to overwhelm the shinobi. Sasuke cursed under his breath, finishing off a mercenary and sprinting for the altar. "Naruto, focus on the herald. We'll handle the beasts." Naruto grit his teeth, glancing at the nearest demon abomination, a hulking figure with multiple limbs and a jaw brimming with fangs. Kakashi zipped by, lightning crackling in his hand, slicing across the creature's torso. It roared, black ichor spraying the stones. Another demon lunged at Sasuke, who countered with a slicing Chidori Nagashi, electricity dancing outward. The chaos escalated. Naruto's gaze locked on the herald, who hovered near the brazier's flickering fire. "If I don't stop them, the entire demon realm might break through," the voice inside whispered. "Embrace your power. Show them who truly rules." He shoved that whisper aside, channeling a massive swirl of chakra into his palms. He leapt, bridging the gap in a single bound, aiming a devastating punch at the herald's torso. The masked leader tried to block with the staff, but it shattered under Naruto's blow. The herald snarled in pain, knocked back against the altar's edge. Naruto followed through, refusing to relent. "Stop messing with people's lives." He launched a barrage of strikes, each crackling with that unholy energy he detested yet used out of necessity. The herald deflected some, but the sheer ferocity wore them down. Cracks formed in the horned mask. With a final cry, Naruto smoss head his fist squarely into the herald's chest. The mask split, revealing part of a pale face beneath. Blood trickled from the herald's mouth. For a heartbeat, shock flickered in those eyes, fear that he unstoppable king might truly be rejecting them. But then the herald sneered, raising a trembling hand. If you will not ascend, then fall with this world. They poured remaining chakra into the altar's seal. It glowed violently, the portal overhead widening. More demon creatures clawed through, shrieking. The ground shook, stones cracking. The entire canyon seemed on the brink of unraveling. Naruto felt a surge of panic. If this continued, an army of demons might flood the land of Earth, or worse. He had to shut it down. He slammed both hands onto the altar slab. Closing his eyes, he reached deep into that swirling well of demon power within himself. This was a massive risk drawing on that ancient reservoir. But he remembered the technique from the temple, how he'd shattered the statue's seal. If he could replicate that destructive burst. The herald's eyes widened. No, you wouldn't dare. Naruto roared, pouring demonic chakra and his own shinobi energy into the altar's matrix. Pi lanced through his arms as the swirling sigils crackled, but he kept pushing. It felt like trying to force two magnets together, the demon realm's portal and Naruto's internal power. The synergy threatened to tear him apart. In the distance, he heard voices. Sakura yelling his name, Sasuke cursing, Kakashi shouting orders. But it all became distant noise. The only thing that mattered was closing that portal. The altar shuddered, cracks spider webbing across its surface. The vortex above sputtered, the spectral monsters flickering. The herald screamed, lunging at Naruto to stop him, but Sasuke intercepted, driving a lightning-coated blade into the herald's side, forcing them back. Naruto's vision blurred. Every muscle felt like it was on fire, the demon's power raging to break free. He saw a flash of that black throne, heard thousands of roars. For a split second, he felt an overwhelming temptation. Claim it. Command these creatures. Then he clenched his jaw, fighting it off with all his will. With a final surge of chakra, he unleashed the energy into the altar. The stone exploded, shards flying. The brazier's green flame snuffed out in an instant. The swirling portal overhead imploded, sucking away the monstrous shapes before they could fully enter. A deafening shockwave swept the canyon, toppling cultists, scattering mercenaries like leaves. When the dust settled, Naruto sagged to his knees, gasping. The altar was in ruins, the demon portal gone. The herald lay sprawled on the ground, staff broken, mask half shattered. Most of the robed followers were unconscious or fleeing. The mercenaries, disoriented, either ran or surrendered en masse. Sasuke limped forward, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Kakashi appeared on Naruto's other side, supporting him. Sakura and Shikamaru arrived, along with Neji, eyes wide at the scene of devastation. The herald coughed, reaching out with a trembling hand. You fool! The masked voice was weak, each breath labored. You cannot bury your destiny. The realm will call you back, again and again. Naruto stared, chest heaving. He felt no triumph, only a profound weariness and a swirl of pity. I choose my own path, he managed. Then, ironically, the herald's eyes glazed over and they fell still, life extinguished. A hush fell over the canyon. The robed cultists who remained conscious cowered or tried to crawl away. Few demons that had manifested were gone, yanked back into the void. Mercenaries huddled in corners, dropping their weapons, no longer eager for a fight. Kakashi scanned the area. The portal's closed. The herald is dead. The cult is broken here. Naruto nodded numbly, vision still tinged with spots. He felt the demon's voice receding, that raw power retreating into the depths of his soul. He'd used it to save the day, but it left a hollow ache in its wake. Sakura touched his shoulder, concern etching her features. Naruto, are you? He exhaled raggedly. I'm okay, he lied. The trembling in his limbs suggested otherwise. But at least he was alive, in control. Sasuke stared at him, a strange mix of relief and unsettled respect. You closed the portal. Saved everyone. Naruto forced a shaky grin. Guess that's what we do. Right. Shikamaru and Neji moved to secure any cultists who hadn't fled, while Kakashi examined the broken altar. The entire shrine had collapsed into rubble. Overhead, the sky was clearing. The last vestiges of that sickly green storm fading. In the distance, A few mercenaries scrambled to vanish into the winding canyon passages. Without a leader or a cause, they were no longer a threat. Some might be captured later by Konoha or Iwa Nin. But for now, the immediate crisis was over. Sakura gingerly helped Naruto to his feet. He swayed, but Sasuke offered his shoulder for support. Their rivalry momentarily overshadowed by relief. Kakashi gave a nod of approval. Good job. Let's regroup. Then we'll figure out how to exit the land of Earth without sparking an international incident. Naruto swallowed, mind still spinning. He could feel the weight of everyone's gazes: shock, admiration, lingering fear. I did it. I used that power and stayed me. That was the victory that truly mattered. Nightfall, aftermath and reflection. They left the shattered shrine behind, retreating to a safe distance in the canyon. As the moon rose, they made a temporary camp. Na hid an alcove to tend to wounds and catch their breath. No one built a fire. The risk of drawing attention was too high. Instead, they used small lanterns and flashlights to patch each other up. Aji's eyes returned to normal as he finished scanning for potential ambushes. No immediate threat. The cult is scattered. Sakura applied disinfectant to a cut on Naruto's arm. He winced but didn't complain. Thanks, he murmured, grateful for her gentle hands. She nodded, her expression mixed with relief and lingering worry. We still have a long way back. But at least that monstrous plan is thwarted. Sasuke sat nearby, rolling his injured shoulder, while Shikamaru bound a sprained ankle with bandages. Kakashi hovered over them like a vigilant hawk, occasionally checking the perimeter. A lull settled over the group. The tension of battle had faded, replaced by the familiar exhaustion of a hard-won victory. Naruto let his gaze drift up to the star-filled sky. No swirling portals, no demon armies, just the night, quiet and still. For a moment, that demonic presence inside him was silent. He felt strangely at peace, despite the aches in his body and the whirlwind of thoughts. I can do this. I can keep that throne from ever returning. Kakashi joined them, speaking softly. We'll slip out of the land of Earth at first light, try to avoid any Iwa patrols. Then we head home. Neji and Shikamaru nodded. The group prepared for another round of watch rotations. Sakura, noticing Naruto's drooping eyelids, gently pushed him to lie down. Get some rest. You need it. Naruto wanted to protest. He disliked showing weakness, but the wave of fatigue was overwhelming. All right, he relented, letting her drape a light blanket over him. Even Sasuke gave him a half smirk, as if to say, rest, Dobi. Within minutes, his eyes slid shut. The ground was hard, the air chilly, but he was so spent that sleep came fast. Fragments of nightmares tried to stir, but they felt distant. For now, at least. The voices of that ancient realm stayed quiet. He slept deeply, the events of the day swirling in the back of his mind. Tomorrow, they would slip out of enemy territory and eventually return to Konoha, battered but triumphant. The cult's leadership was crippled, their grand ritual foiled. But was it truly over? That question lingered as he drifted off. Could the demon realm remain sealed away forever? Or was the cult merely the first wave in a greater storm? A twinge of dread crept in, but exhaustion won out. Final scene: dawn's quiet resolve. Morning arrived with pale light creeping over the canyon rim. The infiltration team roused themselves, gathered their supplies, and set out silently, weaving through the labyrinth of stone. No alarms rang, no squads of Iwa Nin appeared. Their mission had been swift and, to outward appearances, discreet. As they emerged from the canyons and started the long journey home, Naruto found himself walking beside Sasuke for a stretch. Both had recovered enough to move steadily, though bruises and fatigue lingered. They spoke little, but a subtle camaraderie had replaced the usual sniping. Behind them, Sakura, Shikamaru, and Neji discussed the route back. Kakashi kept watch from the rear, ever alert. The sky overhead shone clear, as if the land itself was relieved. Naruto's steps felt lighter. For the first time since these nightmares began, he believed he could fight back. He might be the reincarnation of some ancient demon king, but he wasn't bound to that fate. He had friends, willpower, and a promise he'd made to protect those precious to him. The wind rustled, carrying faint scents of dust and new beginnings. He inhaled, remembering the terrified faces of those cultists, the battered mask of the High Herald, the swirling portal he'd destroyed. I won't let them or anyone decide who I am. I'll fight to be me, no matter what old destiny says. With that quiet resolution burning in his heart, Naruto kept moving, step by determined step, toward the distant horizon and home. Chapter 5 Inches Crown of Dusk, Heart of Dawn. The sun rose over the rolling hills outside Konoha, casting a pale gold across the dirt roads. Team 7 Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi walked with measured steps, joined by Neji and Shikamaru. Though weary from the battle in the stone labyrinth, they carried themselves with the quiet pride of shinobi who had seized a hard-won victory. Their clothes bore ragged cuts, and faint bruises still marked their skin, but they'd survived the clash with the cult's High Herald, and more importantly, they had stopped the demonic portal before it consumed the land of Earth. Naruto, near the front of the group, glanced over his shoulder. He caught a flicker of relief in Sakura's eyes and a gruff nod from Sasuke. Shikamaru lagged behind, yawning, while Neji's ever-calm composure belied the tension that still hung in the air. Kakashi ambled casually at the rear, though he was no doubt scanning the surroundings in that subtle, vigilant way of his. They finally saw the massive wooden gates of Konoha loom into view, and a subtle wave of relief passed through them. Two Chunin guards, familiar faces, straightened immediately, surprise mingling with respect at the sight of the returning infiltration team. "Welcome back," one guard said, stepping forward. "We got word that you, might have run into trouble." Kakashi smiled. "We always run into trouble. But everything's under control." With that, the 7 shinobi slipped through the gates, leaving the early morning bustle behind as they headed straight for the Hokage Tower. Bystanders murmured, noticing their tattered gear and drained expressions. Whispers started swirling. They've been on a critical mission. Maybe it's that demon cult everyone's talking about. Naruto ignored the stares, focusing on the tower in the distance. Hokage's office. Debrief and aftermath. Not long after, they stood in the Hokage's office, dusty and exhausted, delivering a concise but urgent report. The third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, listened intently, pipe in hand. By the time Kakashi finished detailing the infiltration, the shattered shrine, and the High Herald's defeat, lines of concern deepened on the old man's brow. "You've done well," Sarutobi said at length. "The cult appears to be leaderless now, and any immediate threat from that portal has been nullified." He paused, pipe smoke drifting in lazy curls. "However, we must remain vigilant. You said there were faint hints that others might sense the Demon King's aura, beyond the cult itself." Naruto swallowed. "Yeah, they kept saying bigger forces would come if this demon power was discovered." Sasuke crossed his arms, glancing at Naruto. "We can't ignore the possibility that other groups will try the same thing. Especially if they hear rumors about an immortal demon king lurking in Konoha." Sarutobi's gaze moved between them. "Then we'll be ready. For now, rest. The village owes you a great debt." Kakashi nodded. "I'll debrief the council further, but I'd like to get my team some well-deserved downtime." "Of course," Sarutobi said gently. His eyes flicked to Naruto. "We'll reconvene soon to discuss any personal developments. For now, good work, all of you." Dismissed, they stepped out into the corridor. Shikamaru and Neji parted ways, heading to their respective clans for rest. Kakashi patted Naruto on the shoulder. "Team 7, you're free for a while. Recover. But stay alert." Sakura gave a fatigued smile. "I'm going to the hospital to check in with Tsunade-sama's apprentices. I need supplies to treat these bruises." Sasuke just grunted, muttering something about training. He left at once, posture rigid, though Naruto sensed an undercurrent of simmering thoughts behind his cool facade. That left Naruto alone with Kakashi in the hallway. His sensei gave him a soft look. "You did well, Naruto. Kept it together when it counted." Naruto exhaled a shaky breath, relief warring wit. The lingering dread that the cult's defeat wasn't the end. "Thanks, sensei." Kakashi ruffled his hair. "Go on. Try not to destroy anything for at least a few hours, okay?" Naruto managed a weak laugh. "I'll do my best." Streets of Konoha. Heroes welcome and unease. Not 10 minutes later, Naruto found himself walking alone through the village. Word spread fast. Some curious faces peered at him from shop entrances. A few villagers whispered behind their hands. He heard snatches of conversation. That's Naruto, right? He's the one with the demon powers, I heard. He saved us from that cult, or is he even more dangerous now? He clenched his jaw, pushing past the onlookers. It never stops, huh? But there was a difference this time. Fewer glares of fear or contempt. More confusion and uncertainty, yes. But also a flicker of gratitude. Some had heard that Naruto risked his life to stop a demonic invasion far beyond Konoha's walls. Eventually, he ducked into a quieter side street, RT pounding with exhaustion and conflicting emotions. At least it's not all negativity. He recalled a few people even calling out, "Thank you, Naruto." From a distance, half shy and uncertain. Before he could dwell on it, a familiar voice called his name. Naruto. He turned to see Hinata Hyuga hurrying over, her pale eyes wide with relief. She wore her usual jacket, though her hair was slightly tousled as if she'd been training. The moment she reached him, she bowed her head in a rush of concern. "Are you all right? I heard rumors that you..." He let out a breath, forcing a tired grin. "I'm in one piece. Just got back." Hinata's cheeks tinged pink, but her worry overrode any shyness. "I'm so glad." She hesitated, then softly asked, "Were you hurt?" He shrugged, trying to play it off. "Nothing too bad. Cuts, bruises." He didn't mention the near mental collapse when he'd used that demonic power again. Her gaze flicked to the torn edges of his jacket. She gently brushed her fingertips over a ripped seam. "You always push yourself too far." Naruto's chest warmed at her genuine concern. Impulsively, he rested a hand on her shoulder, giving a light squeeze. "I'm okay. Thanks for worrying, though." She swallowed, eyes shining. For a moment, it looked like she wanted to say more, do more, but instead she just nodded. If you need anything, I'll be around. I won't bother you. I know you must be exhausted." He kind of wished she wouldn't run off so quickly, but he understood her shy kindness. "Sure, I'll find you later," he said, summoning a small, sincere smile. A little spark lit Hinata's face, and she gave a quick bow before slipping away. Naruto watched her go, that old swirl of conflicting warmth and confusion roiling in his mind. He was definitely grateful for her kindness, but he shook his head, refocusing. Need to rest first, he told himself, weaving through the streets toward his apartment. Naruto's apartment. One problem at a time. By the time Naruto trudged into his place, the exhaustion weighed on him like lead. He kicked the door shut, tossed his pack aside, and let out a long groan. The space looked the same as always, messy, cramped, but right now, it felt like a sanctuary. He considered collapsing straight into bed, but hunger gnawed at his stomach. With a grimace, he searched his cupboards. One stale cup of instant ramen remained. He sighed, muttering, "Better than nothing." 5 minutes later, he slurped the noodles with half-lidded eyes. At least the quiet helped him gather his thoughts. The cult was in disarray, their leader dead. The portal sealed for now. But the demon power inside him certainly hadn't vanished. If anything, it felt more awake than ever. That final explosion of energy at the shrine, he'd tapped deeper into that well of ancient strength than he ever had before. The question was, if he kept using it, would it erode his will? Or maybe I can bend it to my will completely. The idea hovered at the edge of his mind, both tempting and scary. If he could truly master it, nobody could threaten his friends or Konoha again. But at what cost? A knock on his door startled him out of his thoughts. He quickly shoved the half-empty ramen cup aside. When he opened up, he found Ino Yamanaka leaning against the doorframe, arms crossed, a playful smirk on her lips. "You look like a wreck," she teased. He blinked, a grin tugging at his mouth despite his fatigue. "Nice to see you too." She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, glancing around the cluttered apartment. "Figured you'd come back starving and exhausted, Oh." She lifted a small bag that smelled heavenly of fresh dumplings. "I brought a little something." The aroma made Naruto's stomach rumble anew. "You're a lifesaver," he said, ushering her in and hastily clearing a space on the table. She set the bag down, and they both dug in. Between bites, Ino's eyes flicked over him. "You're not too beat up." She reached out, lightly touching a bruise on his forearm. He tensed at the spark of contact, the memory of her closeness from before flickering in his mind. "I've had worse," he said, trying to sound tough. Then he sighed. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. They summoned all these demon creatures. He paused, an uneasy knot forming in his chest. I got rid of them. But I had to tap into that power again. Ino's jaw tightened. Did it hurt you? Or your mind? He considered. Both, maybe. But I didn't lose it, so I guess that's a win. The cult's main threat is done, at least. She studied him, then leaned forward and brushed a stray piece of hair from his face. I'm proud of you. You know, everyone's talking about how you saved a whole region from an invasion. He felt heat rise to his cheeks. I didn't do it alone. Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, the others, they all helped. Ino smirked, leaning closer so their faces were just inches apart. Don't get too humble. You're still the star of the rumor mill, she teased. Then, more softly, you need to watch yourself, Naruto. Because if that demon stuff ever tries to take over, I'm giving you a good smack to remind you who you really are. Her words made him chuckle, and a swirl of gratitude welled up. In a sudden burst of affection, he slipped a hand behind her neck, drawing her into a firm, heated kiss. She sighed against his mouth, returning it with equal intensity. The tension of the past days seemed to melt in that moment, replaced by a dizzying rush of comfort, desire, and relief. When they finally broke apart, panting, she gave a breathless laugh. Wow, someone missed me. He managed a lopsided grin. Something like that. Her eyes flitted downward, a bit of shyness creeping into her demeanor despite her usual boldness. Okay, I have to go soon. Dad's expecting me at the flower shop. But I just had to see you. His heart thudded. Thanks for checking in. Means a lot. He walked her to the door. Before stepping out, she pulled him down for one more quick, lingering kiss that left him dazed. Rest up, she murmured, winking. Then she was gone, leaving him alone with a flutter in his chest. He stood there for a moment, staring at the closed door, thinking about how complicated everything had become. The demon inside, the blossoming closeness with Ino, the gentle warmth from Hinata, the lingering tension with Sakura. It was overwhelming, yet he couldn't deny a part of him relished at the idea that people cared about him, even loved him, in ways he'd never imagined as a lonely kid. With a rueful shake of his head, he locked up and finally dragged himself to bed, exhaustion overtaking him the moment his head hit the pillow. One day later, a stirring threat. Despite expecting a reprieve, Naruto found himself summoned back to the Hokage's office the next day. The mission's success had gained attention, and Sarutobi wanted a thorough update on Naruto's condition, especially that demonic aura. Kakashi accompanied him, alongside a couple of the village elders who insisted on being present. Homura, one of those elders, studied Naruto with thinly veiled apprehension. You claim the cult has been disbanded, but is there any guarantee they won't reform under another leader? Naruto scowled at the suspicion in Homura's tone. We can't guarantee anything, but the High Herald was the one holding them together. We took them down. Kakashi stepped in diplomatically. We've also stationed scouting parties near the Land of Rivers to monitor any remnants. So far, no sign of large-scale regrouping. Homura made a disapproving noise. And the demon power? Is it truly under control? Naruto felt irritation rise but forced himself to stay calm. I'm handling it. Like I said, I won't let it control me. Sarutobi's voice cut through, more patient. We must ensure no new crisis arises from this ancient force, Elder Homura. Let us not question Naruto's loyalty. He has proven himself many times. That settled the matter, at least for the moment. With a huff, Homura relented, leaving Naruto inwardly fuming but relieved. The meeting ended without further conflict. As they exited, Kakashi gave Naruto a reassuring pat. Don't sweat it. The elders can be stubborn, but they can't ignore what you've done. Naruto shrugged, trying to brush off the annoyance. Yeah. Afternoon training field, tensions rise. Later that day, Naruto found himself in one of the old training grounds near the village outskirts. He needed to move, to burn off restlessness. He threw a flurry of punches at a wooden post, each impact sending cracks through the splintering wood. The raw physical exertion helped drown out the swirl in his head. Still planning to demolish all the training equipment, Dobi. Naruto spun to see Sasuke standing there, arms folded. The usual sneer laced his tone. But his eyes carried a hint of something else, concern, maybe. Naruto forced a grin. Hey, we can't always rely on fancy Uchiha jutsu for practice, right? Sasuke stepped forward. TCH. This about the elders grilling you again? Naruto paused, half surprised. You heard. They asked me to weigh in on your control. Sasuke shrugged. They wanted to know if you posed a threat after the last mission. Naruto felt his anger spike. And what did you say? Sasuke's gaze flickered. I told them if you go rogue, I'd take you down. That stung. Naruto's eyes narrowed. You really said that? Sasuke huffed. Relax. I also said I didn't think you'd betray the village. But the elders want insurance. Naruto's fists clenched. I'm not planning to go rogue. I'm just trying to live my life. Sasuke gave a curt nod. I know. He stepped closer, voice quieter. Don't forget. The power that nearly devoured you in the stone labyrinth, that's no joke. If you lose control, it won't just be the elders you have to worry about. They stood their intention, the unspoken challenge thick in the air. Yet Naruto sensed an undercurrent of protectiveness behind Sasuke's blunt words. The rivalry was overshadowed by the realization that they'd each saved the other's life multiple times now. Naruto finally exhaled. Fine, I won't forget, but if the day ever comes you try to take me down, I'll punch you so hard you'll see stars for a week. Sasuke's lips twitched, almost a smirk. Wouldn't expect less. Without further talk, they lapsed into a spar that started slow but built in intensity. Punches, kicks, the occasional flash of jutsu. Neither used their full power. Naruto didn't tap the demonic side, Sasuke didn't push the limits of his Sharingan. Even so, the strain tested them both, sweat flying, breath ragged. At the end, they stood across from each other, panting. Sasuke's knuckles were bruised, Naruto's arms ached. But an unspoken sense of mutual respect thrummed between them. We're still teammates. We're still pushing each other. As they wrapped up, Sakura arrived, having sensed their chakra flaring. She rolled her eyes at the damage to the training field but said nothing, just offered them each a water canteen. You two never change, she muttered. Yet Naruto noticed the relief in her gaze that they were fighting on the same side, not as enemies. Evening ties that bind. Word spread that Team 7 and their allies had neutralized the cult. Celebrations cropped up in small ways. The occasional free bowl of ramen or a pat on the back from a grateful villager made Naruto's cheeks burn with unexpected pride. But the stigma still lingered. At times, as he strolled the village, he felt he was walking a line between hero and pariah. That evening, a quiet gathering formed at a small riverside spot behind Konoha. Sakura suggested it, wanting a calmer space for them to unwind. They invited a few friends, Ino, Shikamaru, Hinata, Choji, and others, making it a spontaneous hangout. The sun dipped low, painting the water in pinkish hues as they spread out on a grassy bank with snacks. Naruto sat cross-legged on the grass. Ino claimed a spot beside him, leaning against his shoulder. Across the circle, Hinata settled near Kiba and Shino, though she occasionally shot Naruto shy glances. Sakura and Sasuke shared some banter. Shikamaru dozed off under a tree. A mild breeze rustled the leaves overhead. Eventually, Ino teased Naruto. So, new cult problems aside, you planning to go all tyrant lord on us or something? Naruto choked on a soda he'd been sipping, face flushing. Shut up, he sputtered, half laughing. You know I'm not. She gave him a wry grin. Glad to hear it. Despite the playful words, her eyes carried genuine relief. Sakura broke in with a light jab. If you turn evil, I'm dragging your sorry butt back to normal, even if I have to punch you through a wall. Hinata, flustered, added softly, I'd help too, if it ever came to that. Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. Embarrassment wrestling with gratitude. You guys are all crazy, you know that. He mumbled, but a smile tugged at his mouth. They've got my back. Sasuke clicked his tongue. At least it won't be dull around here. It was a strange, comforting moment sitting with these friends, some old, some newly close, all sharing in a respite from the looming threats of the world. Naruto felt warmth unfurl in his chest. This was what he fought for. Nightfall private confessions. As the group dispersed under the glittering night sky, Naruto lingered, picking up stray snack wrappers. Sakura and Hinata offered to help, but he waved them off. I got it, he said. You two go on. Sakura hesitated. Sure, it's fine, I can. No, really, I'm good, he assured. She shrugged and headed off with the others. Hinata gave him a soft goodnight, and soon he was alone, or so he thought. When he finished collecting trash, he sensed a presence behind him. He turned to see Ino, arms folded. Sneaking up on me, he teased. She smiled. Guess I didn't want to go yet. Stepping closer, she tossed her hair, but there was a gentle note in her gaze. You keep pushing yourself to do everything alone, even cleaning up. He shrugged. Better than making you guys do all the work. She rolled her eyes, then her expression turned earnest. You know, you don't have to be the hero all the time. Everyone has your back. Naruto studied her face in the moonlight. She was confident, beautiful, sharp-tongued, but also capable of surprising tenderness. I'm still getting used to that, he admitted softly. So many years, it was just me. She reached up, brushing a stray leaf from his hair. Well, now you've got more than you bargained for, huh? Her grin flickered, becoming a shade more serious. Between Hinata's big heart, Sakura's loyalty, and me being obviously the hottest. He coughed, face heating. Ino, come on, I'm just saying, she teased, though her voice trembled with sincerity. Avenue, a lot of people who care deeply about you. Don't forget to lean on us. He didn't know if she was implying a competition or just acknowledging the complicated feelings swirling around him. Either way, it struck a chord. He mustered a lopsided grin and tugged her closer by the wrist, dipping his head to claim her lips. Her breath caught, but she melted into the kiss, arms looping around his neck. For a brief, heady moment, all the burdens of demon kings and cultists vanished. There was only the soft sound of the river, the moonlight, and the warmth of her mouth on his. When they parted, Ino exhaled shakily. You sure you got the stamina for all these girls pining after you? She joked, but the vulnerability in her eyes was real. Naruto brushed a thumb over her cheek. I'm not perfect. But I'll do my best to be there for everyone who needs me. An awkward laugh escaped him. God, that sounds sappy. She chuckled, leaning her forehead against his. Sappy is fine sometimes. They street. I'd like that a moment longer before she pulled away, albeit reluctantly. I should get back. It's late. A final, soft kiss brushed his jaw. Night, Naruto. Night, Ino. She disappeared into the darkness, leaving him alone with a twisting mix of happiness and unease. Because despite the closeness and affection, an intangible shadow loomed, one that no amount of kisses or jokes could fully dispel. The demon's presence was quiet now. But how long would that last? A new morning, rumblings of future storms. Early the next day, Naruto found himself summoned again, this time to a secluded training field on the outskirts of the village. He arrived to find none other than Jiraiya waiting, leaning against a tree with his arms crossed. A swirl of emotion hit Naruto. Jiraiya was both an eccentric teacher and something like a godfather figure. He hadn't been around for the recent crisis, but word must have reached him fast. Yo, Naruto, Jiraiya greeted, voice casual. Heard you had a bit of a demon problem. Naruto winced at the bluntness. Geez, Ero Sennin, come on. Jiraiya's expression turned serious in a heartbeat. I'm not joking, kid. The third told me everything about that cult. And about you nearly popping a portal from some demon realm. Naruto exhaled, tension twisting his gut. It's under control. Jiraiya shook his head. When it comes to ancient demon kings, better safe than sorry. You realize there may be records older than anything in Konoha about an entity that predates even the tailed beasts. If that's what you carry, we gotta be sure you're ready. Naruto's jaw set. So what do you want me to do? Train, Jiraiya said simply. We can't just seal it away and hope for the best. We need to see if we can harness it safely. Because if something else stirs in the shadows, you'll be the first target. The thought made Naruto's stomach churn. Another crisis. The cult's demise already suggested that the demon's presence might lure out bigger threats. He forced a nod, clenching his fists. Fine, I'll do whatever it takes. Jiraiya clapped him on the back. Good, we might need to travel a bit. No sense in freaking the villagers out if we start messing with new jutsu that draw from your unique chakra. Naruto tried not to think about leaving Konoha just when everything was so complicated. But if it was necessary to protect them all, he'd do it. All right, let's do this. Winding down, but not quite. Later that afternoon, Naruto roamed the village with a pensive air. Jiraiya's sudden offer of training weighed on his mind, as did the possibility of stepping away from the daily life he'd just started enjoying. He had friends, blossoming romances, missions with Team 7. But the demon threat overshadowed all that. He ended up standing on a high walkway near the Hokage monument, gazing out at the sea of rooftops. The sun hung low, the sky tinted a lazy orange. A mix of hope and dread pulsed in his chest. Maybe I can truly master this power. No more Night Aries. Or maybe I'll end up losing control. A quiet voice roused him from his thoughts. Lost in that big head of yours. Sakura approached from behind, arms folded gently. She'd changed into casual clothes, pink hair swaying in the breeze. Her eyes held concern. I heard Jiraiya's back. Something about training. He nodded. Yeah, might leave soon. She stepped beside him, looking over the village. I see. So you'll be gone a while. Probably, he said. He thinks I need more than basic jutsu practice to handle whatever's inside me. She studied his face. Are you scared? He gave a bleak laugh. Terrified. But if I don't do it, the next time some cult tries to yank out this Demon King's side, I might not resist so easily. Sakura hesitated, then laid a hand on his forearm. You've got all of us waiting for you. Just don't vanish like last time, okay? He turned to face her, struck by the warmth in her gaze. I promise, I'll come back, for sure. On impulse, he leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. She stiffened, cheeks reddening, but didn't pull away. A faint smile touched her lips. You've changed a lot, she said quietly. You're more confident. He swallowed, thinking of Ino, Hinata, and the swirl of his own uncertain heart. I guess I have. They stood in silence, watching the sky shift from orange to deeper pink. Whatever the future held, demonic powers or not, he realized he was done being just the outcast. He had people he cared about, and they cared back. That was worth fighting for. Final ties. Saying goodbye, for now. At dawn the following day, Naruto packed a simple travel bag. Jiraiya insisted on an immediate departure, citing old scrolls and contact leads in far-off lands. Outside Naruto's apartment, Team 7 plus a few friends gathered for a quick send-off. Sasuke offered a stoic nod. Don't slack off on your training, Dobi. I'll keep getting stronger here. Naruto smirked. Don't worry, I'll come back even stronger than you. Sakura gave him a playful punch on the arm. Stay safe, knucklehead. And right sometimes. Kakashi I smiled. We'll hold down the fort. Try not to break any borders this time. Neji and Shikamaru lingered at the periphery, both giving respectful acknowledgements. Choji waved from behind them, munching on chips, while Kiba joked that Naruto should bring back exotic dog treats for Akamaru. Ino approached last, arms looped around her waist. She tilted her head, lips quirked. Better not forget about me. I'll be waiting. He managed a soft grin. I won't. They exchanged a brief, intense hug that left unspoken promises hanging in the air. Then Hinata stepped forward, shy but determined. And Naruto-kun, I just wanted to say, good luck. She bowed low, cheeks pink, then met his gaze. You'll succeed, I know it. A rush of fondness swelled in his chest. He gently laid a hand on her shoulder. Thanks, Hinata. I appreciate you. She blinked, heart fluttering. He saw the relief in her eyes, like she'd wanted acknowledgement that he noticed her feelings. Though he couldn't commit to anything specific right then, he at least wanted her to know she mattered. With that, Jiraiya clapped Naruto on the back, urging him forward. Come on, brat. Time's a wastin'. Naruto cast one last look at his friends, at the village gate, at the morning light spilling over the walls. I'll be back, he promised silently. And next time, he swore he'd be stronger enough to protect everyone from any shadow of an ancient throne or a cult that dared to resurrect it. As they headed down the road, Jiraiya launched into an animated monologue about the hidden hot springs they'd pass, ignoring Naruto's protests of, focus, old man. But beneath the banter, Naruto felt a stirring of cautious optimism. The demon's presence within him was quiet, watchful, waiting. He'd face it head on, shaping his own destiny instead of letting some prophecy or power define him. And so, Chapter 5 ended with Naruto leaving Konoha at Jiraiya's side, determined to master the legacy that haunted him. Behind him, the village stood recovering from recent turmoil, but a fragile peace and new alliances hinted that life would press on. For now, the immediate threat of the cult had been crushed. Yet across distant lands, rumors of the Demon King Reborn would spread, attracting eyes both curious and malevolent. The stage was set for future conflicts and for Naruto to prove, once and for all, that he would walk his own path, demon or not. Crown of Dusk, Heart of Dawn, the promise of a new day, shaped by the will of one determined shinobi. The rest of the world might question, fear, or worship the power inside him, but Naruto vowed to remain true to himself and defend those he loved. No ancient king or cult was going to rewrite his story. He was Naruto Uzumaki, and this was only the beginning. To be continued.